evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 24th day of May, 2022. Please rise if you're able. Join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing. Let's join together for a moment of silence. I think tonight it's appropriate that we remember the 14 students and teacher at Robb Elementary School in Texas, as I'm just reading, who were gunned down in a school shooting just a few hours ago. Another tragic gun violence incident. We'll learn more about it, but these could be our kids. Could be our kids. It's just seems, you read about it in the news, you hear about it. We're distant. Texas is a long way away, but these are children innocently shot in a place that they would think is absolutely safe, their own elementary school. So it's hard to fathom, hard to understand. Sometimes at moments like this, the best thing we can do is share a moment of silence, prayer, send our love and thoughts and prayers out to the survivors, the families, the moms and dads that now have to come to terms with the loss of their innocent child. So as a father of two, I can't imagine what they're going through right now. So let's join together in silence. Thank you. Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you kindly call the roll?
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara. Present. Councilman Martell.
Present.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
Okay. So everyone is here. We have a couple of resolutions I'd like to add to our agenda this evening. I'll read them real quick, and we'll try to do this in one vote. If somebody wants to pull one out and do it separately, that's fine too. 40360 appoints Dorothy or Dorota Godlewski to Town Controller. 40382 is our 10th warrant. 40509, sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and co-sponsored by Councilman Scavone, is a notice of public hearing to consider the adoption of the housing plan as an updated element of the town's comprehensive plan. 40515 amends the 22 town board zoning amendment petition fee schedule for the Department of Land Management. And 40516 is a notice of public hearing to consider a change in a non-conforming use pursuant to Southampton Town Code Section 330-185.1. Make a motion to walk all five of those on.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. This requires 4 out of 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it was unanimous. Okay. So next, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from our town board, our regular town board meeting of May 10th, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Second, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Hampton Bays Water District Commissioners meeting minutes from May 12th, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. And last, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the special town board meeting of May 20th, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Before we do the communications, a couple things. Just a quick announcement. The building department won't be open to the public tomorrow. In fact, Wednesdays, for a while, they will not be seeing the public. They have an incredible backlog. They need some time to just process the backlog of applications. They'll be busy working, but they won't be coming out to the counter to greet people. You'll be able to drop things off, but until they're able to catch up, that's going to continue probably for the entirety of the summer, potentially till September 7th. So we're going to give them a chance to catch up. And another busy department is our tax receivers department, because this is the time of year that the second half of taxes are being paid, right? And we're joined today by Teresa Kiernan, who is our tax receiver. Teresa, did you want to say a few words?
Good evening, everyone. I just would like to make a brief announcement. The second half of taxes are due on Tuesday, May 31st. My office will have some extended hours, so we will be here on this Saturday, May 28th, from 9 a.m. until noon. And on Tuesday, May 31st, we will be here from 8:30 a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. We encourage everyone to visit the town website at southamptontowny.gov and click Pay Your Taxes. It's in the upper right corner. You can view, print, or pay your taxes online on the website. And of course, call my office with any issues at 631-702-2470. Tuesday, May 31st, it's good in person or by postmark. And we also have two banks that collect payments for us if you have your actual tax coupon at People's United Bank and Dime Community Bank. Any questions?
Questions? Are my taxes paid?
You're done.
Peoples will accept them Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday, they're Monday's the
Tuesday,
holiday, yeah.
first Monday, they're probably also closed. Of course, we're closed on Monday, May 30th for Memorial Day. I'm sure the banks are. But up until, Tuesday, close of business at the banks. The website will be open until 11:45 p.m. on Tuesday. I don't recommend anyone wait until that hour to pay because of technical possible glitches.
When is the end of the grace period?
Well, that is the end. So on June 1st, if you haven't paid your taxes, technically you are in arrears, and that will go to the county with about a 10.25% to start. So May 31st is the end of the grace
That
period.
is it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
All right, any other questions?
thank you.
Okay.
I'd just like to say it a little louder and make it clear, the building department is working on Wednesdays. They're not closed, they're not taking a vacation day, they're working quietly, uninterrupted, getting the work done that we need to get done, because I've had a lot of questions about how do you close it on Wednesdays when we're so far behind. We're not closing it, they're closed to the public, to be clear.
Right, exactly.
And we anticipate production in the building department to actually increase with that day.
Absolutely.
Right, we're trying to catch up. And I trust that we will, so. All right. Okay, I think the next item is communications. Madam Clerk, would you please read the communications?
The following communications have been received in my office of the town clerk. We have received public notices from the Village of Sag Harbor, notice of adoption and public hearing notice. New York State liquor license 30-day advance notice to local municipality, an amended application, and a new application from the listed entity. Emails, letters, and land use applications have been received regarding the following: a CPF acquisition of 501 Montauk Highway, Shinnecock Hills, notice of strawberry Thanksgiving ceremonies in Shinnecock Hills for June 5th, PSEG notice of DEIS completion, acceptance of the Bridgehampton to Buell new 69 kV underground cable. Zoning Board of Appeals, applications for two locations, 110 Geyer Road, Watermill, and 1160 Meadow Lane, Southampton. Annual financial disclosure statement filings were filed by the listed individuals, and we had bid and request for proposals on May 11th for requirements contract for pavement repair for highway, full depth reclamation for highway, highway signs, posts, and appurtenances, which no bids were received, on the May 18th for the demolition at 1380 Flanders Road, Flanders, and furnish and install microsurfing and/or crack sealing, and the Hampton Bays compost facility renovation. On May 19th, we received RFPs for the architectural and engineering services for the Southampton Head Start Center expansion. And that concludes the communications for this meeting's agenda.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move on to public hearings, and we do have several, four of them, and then we will have public portion. I have 4 cards, I believe, all for public portion. So I just ask you guys to be patient so that we can get through the public hearings, and then you'll be able to speak your mind on these private roads. Okay? So, Madam Clerk, would you read the first public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 1, to consider the adoption of the 2022 CPF pilot plan.
All right, Lisa Combrink, our CPF Program Manager, will introduce this.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and board members. Lisa Combrink, CPF Program Manager. I'm going to hand up now some information regarding this year's pilot program. So as you know, this is the time that we usually revisit the pilot payments for this year. The CPF law at the state level authorizes the payment, it's called payment in lieu of taxes, from the CPF revenues. And that is to make up for the loss of tax revenue in certain taxing districts, mostly in the west end of the town. The law provides that up to 10% of the revenues from last year can be dedicated towards those pilot payments. And just to refresh your memory, those payments go to the Riverhead School, Riverhead Library, Riverhead Fire District, Hampton Bays School, Hampton Bays Library, Eastport South Manor School, Eastport South Manor Library, East Quogue School, East Quogue Library, Riverhead Fire, Flanders Fire, Northeast Quogue Fire Protection, and the Northampton Ambulance District. So those are all the districts that are covered. A very specific calculation is made each year. So the total amount that would be distributed to those districts this year, and the payment is typically made in June, is $4,523,502.
And that's well below the 10%.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And these are the only tax districts that are eligible within the town at this point?
At this point, that is correct, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay, and it's for all preserved property, not just CPF preserved property?
Correct. All protected properties, yes.
So even if the state took
State,
it off the
yes.
tax rolls, the county took
County,
it off the
yep.
tax rolls? Okay. Okay. Is there anyone from the public who has any questions or wants to make any comments concerning this payment in lieu of taxes pilot program for the CPF program?
I also asked that our tax receiver, Teresa Kiernan, would be here just in case you had any other questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Once again, is anyone from the public wishing to be heard on this issue? Seeing none, I will make a motion to close.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we move on to public hearing number 2, Madam Clerk.
Public hearing number 2, to consider amending Town Code, Chapter 312, Vehicles and Traffic, amending and adding parking prohibited in designated locations, regulations on a portion of County Road 80, Montauk Highway, East Quogue.
Thank you. Assistant Town Attorney Sean Cambridge will introduce us.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and members of the Town Board. You'll all notice this is substantially similar to public hearing number 3 tonight. And the reason for that is we receive recommendations from the Suffolk County Department of Public Works, and from what I understand, our engineering department received an update between the time public hearing number 2 and public hearing number 3 were noticed. So we left public hearing number 2 open, so if anyone felt the need to comment, their comments would be included with public hearing number 3. There are slight differences. The final draft, which is public hearing number 3, ended up being a little bit less restrictive than the initial draft. It amounts to a couple spots here and there to provide access for local businesses. So this is really just kind of a balancing test between public safety and public access.
But the
So,
resolution corresponding to public hearing 2, you're asking us not to approve.
correct, the
The
one
one
for public
corresponding
hearing
to
number
public
3 is calendared for tonight.
So we'll go ahead and close 2 and then go on to number 3.
I'd recommend
That's
that.
your
Well,
recommendation?
first we have to hear from the public.
Right.
All right, any questions for Sean? Okay,
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to
hold on,
close.
hold on. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to be heard at public hearing number 2 regarding proposed parking changes in East Quogue on County Road 80, Main Street? All right, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Third public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 3, to consider amending Town Code, Chapter 312, Vehicles and Traffic, amending and adding parking prohibited in designated location regulations on a portion of County Road 80, Montauk Highway, East Quogue.
All right, again,
Right, this is what was just addressed. Noticeably, Section 19 and 22 were slightly tweaked to be more permissive than the former draft by a couple car spots, what that would amount to.
you have a diagram showing where the no parking is
I
going
don't,
to go?
unfortunately. Our town engineering department did prepare these resolutions. I don't think they typically will prepare a diagram unless requested ahead of time.
The county has requested
The
these.
county has requested
It's
these,
their road.
their road, and we've, acted in conjunction with them to be as permissive as possible while protecting public
So
safety.
my understanding in general is this is where there are cross streets
Correct.
and where people are turning right or left. They're prohibiting parking in spots that would block the line of sight.
Correct, and as well as possibly driveways that come out on these county roads.
So people can safely get out of their
So
driveway.
people can turn safely. Many of the accidents, as everyone knows, are people turning, particularly against traffic. So they want to make sure that there are sight lines that are visible.
And the CAC did go over all of these recommendations.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, is anyone from the public who wishes to be heard at this third public hearing? This is, again, regarding parking restrictions in East Quogue on Montauk Highway. Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Thank you.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we move on to the fourth public hearing notice. Madam Clerk?
Public hearing number 4, to consider amending Town Code, Chapter 50, Open Government, to allow members of the public bodies of the town to participate in meetings via video conference.
Okay, we have Deputy Town Attorney Kathleen Murray to introduce us.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, members of the Town Board. As you know, as part of its response to the COVID-19 pandemic, by emergency declarations, New York State authorized local governments to utilize video conferencing to conduct the business of the town, including meetings of the Town Board, as well as your local land use boards, such as your zoning board and your planning board. As a result of this accommodation, public participation was maintained and arguably and likely enhanced throughout the pandemic. Given this realization, the New York State Legislature worked to amend Public Officers Law to permanently allow remote public participation. The result was an amendment to Public Officers Law through the enactment of Section 103A, which was adopted on April 9, 2022, as part of the New York State budget. This amendment enables local governments, in their discretion, to use video conferencing to conduct their meetings, provided that, 1, a minimum number of members are physically present at the meeting location to fulfill the public body's quorum requirement, and 2, other criteria are met as articulated in the law. So the purpose of this local law is to utilize this option and authorize members of the town's public bodies to participate in meetings using video conferencing technologies. If the town board is inclined to authorize the continued use of video conferencing, one of the conditions under the Public Officers Law amendment is the adoption of procedures to identify how that video conferencing will be used. In furtherance of that, I'm handing out to you a resolution, which is actually on the agenda today, on pages 41 and 42, but if it's for ease of reference, that's a copy of it. And it should probably be considered as part of the discussion for this local law because that identifies the procedures that you would be adopting. If you remember, we did talk about these procedures at an April 28th Town Board work session, and for the most part, these procedures mimic that which is required under the Open Meetings Law Amendment, but for numbers 2B and 3, which were added to provide a little more guidance to the board members of your public bodies. Other than those changes, everything else in these procedures follows the requirements of the New York State Public Officers Law. Currently, the town has until June 8th to continue the use of video conferencing under the authority granted under the pandemic, that is to say, to have video conferencing without requiring in-person attendance of your board members. Thereafter, you have to either cease using video conferencing or adopt this local law. Does the board have any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple quick questions. I guess the first one is like a technical question. You might not be able to answer, but I'm trying to imagine what a hybrid meeting is going to look like. So if, let's say, Councilman Bouvier isn't here, is there going to be a laptop where he is, where his face appears and can talk to the audience?
So actually, at the town board work session that we had, it was a good illustration of how it would work. Councilman Bouvier was up on the screen above us, and we had the discussion. At that time, there were 3 town board members physically present here at Town Hall. So
It worked quite well. So Cindy, I got to commend you for communication.
So
That
we-
might be something we need to work on a little
Yeah.
bit if
So
if
we-
you're not here.
We believe that CTV is going to, and IT will be able to make it as seamless as possible.
yes, and Charles did participate a little bit in that discussion from CTV, and we do believe that it's something that we can accomplish.
And will that also allow the public, in this resolution, will allow the public to participate?
Yes, absolutely. So the whole function of this law is really to allow the public to participate remotely. And one of the benefits of allowing the public to participate remotely is for town board members in the event of an extraordinary circumstance, or other board members, and in the event of an extraordinary circumstance, to also participate remotely.
So, okay, that will be my next question then. Who determines if somebody gets a pass, so to speak? If somebody can be excused from in-person participation?
Sure. So, and when you look at the procedures that are outlined in the resolution, the New York State Legislature has already identified some of the extraordinary circumstances, and they've identified them to be disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes the member's physical attendance at any such meeting. So that's what the state legislature has authorized. You, in your discretion, may articulate other reasons. You can leave it as this blanket caveat or catch-all, saying any other circumstances. If you see under 2B, we did add extraordinary circumstances shall not include traffic or conflicting social engagements. And as you know, we have asked that any member of a public body who cannot participate, that any member notify the chair of that board in writing at least 4 hours prior to the start of the meeting, so that there can be a discussion as to whether or not a physical quorum will be present at the location in order to continue with that meeting.
So does the member decide that they can't participate and they meet the extraordinary circumstance? Or does the chair review it and say, yes, you don't have to be here?
As proposed, it's the chair. This town board can use its discretion to refine that, change that, and determine without limitation what you believe is an extraordinary circumstance beyond that which the state legislature has already identified.
And if the chair can't make it, I guess the chair also decides that it's a legitimate reason. Okay.
Correct.
I want to, it's going to be interesting. It'll be interesting. But the public, they don't need extraordinary circumstance?
No. So the entire function of this legislation is to authorize video conferencing and remote participation for the public. And I think the state legislature has said, well, because I think the state legislature would like to see this expanded to the public, the carrot, so to speak, that they've offered is to allow board members to also participate remotely in the event that they meet in
So
extraordinary
I'm just trying to
circumstances.
imagine running a meeting now and with a controversial potential topic, whatever it might be, hunting, right? Could be hunting on town parklands. I see Mike Tessitore's here. So so let's say it's hunting on certain town farmland, or whatever, parcels, and people from outside the town are interested in hunting within the town, and there are hunting enthusiasts from all over the country, and now I got 500 people who want to speak, some of them from the Midwest, whatever it is. I mean, do we have to allow at all future meetings this remote participation, or I can say only on certain meetings? And if I have to allow it, can I certainly take those who are here first? Can I limit the amount of time somebody has? Because, it potentially could deprive town residents of their ability to approach their elected officials because the time is being taken by people who have very little interest in the town but want to weigh in on a controversial subject.
Sure, so you do have to allow it under this law. I will say to you that you have procedures that govern your meetings, and you can institute a time limit. And you can also give the amount of weight that you give somebody's testimony can certainly be based on whether or not they're a resident of the town or whether or not they live many states away. But this law does,
Am I allowed to ask where they live?
you can ask, sure. You can ask.
Okay.
At the beginning of any testimony, you can ask for somebody's name and address. That's not unusual.
Address too, that seems
You can
inappropriate.
ask, if you prefer, you can ask township, county. You're allowed to set procedures for
Yeah, I feel like
how you
you-
run a meeting.
We don't need to know somebody's street address. I think.
Sure, I
knowing-
appreciate that.
I think that's potentially creates a danger. But if they don't live in the town, or they live in a certain portion of the town, I think that's sort of valid. And first name, last name, they have to give.
They have to, yes.
And the clerk is going to need to know how to, like, right now I have these cards.
Right.
Which is great. For the most part, I can read people's penmanship. Not always.
Right. So we
But,
should probably
like,
get in.
So we're going to have to figure out through our portal, they have to enter the information, the first name, last name, and,
That, or we just get into the habit and practice of having people spell their names after they speak their name. That's
Okay,
not
so-
unusual.
so we're going to have to get used to this, and we might
Couple
be
new
modifying
practices.
it. The last thing I'll say, and Rick is probably going to say this, but there was another reason why the state did this, and it wasn't just about COVID. It was also about people with physical disabilities, physical challenges who might otherwise not be able to serve on a town board, or may not, or be able to participate in the audience.
Absolutely.
So there are people with, some real physical challenges that make it very hard for them to mobilize to come here. And this was a way to address that issue. And I like it because of that. I think it's really important. I mean, Rick had an issue where, he had hurt his leg and it was very difficult for him to get here, right, Rick?
Yeah.
At one point.
So I've actually wrote the governor about this very point because, about midway through COVID, I did injure my right leg. Subsequently, 3 months later, I injured my left. I ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks, and I ended up in a physical rehab facility for a month. And if you watch those board meetings, I was zooming in from my bed and at the hospital or at the nursing home, and I didn't miss a beat. I would have felt terrible having to miss 2 months and not being able to weigh in and use my vote and, basically, support.
Except for your roommate, I recall.
Yeah, my roommate was loud at the nursing home, and it was just pretty hysterical. I would be getting an IV or something, and I'd be, on the screen, but it all works, and I think it's important, and, our vote still stands equally if we're,
Absolutely. Right.
So, I think that's great, and I think, I was contacted by several individuals with disabilities who really believe that this was the way it should go, and I'm 100% in favor of this.
So I did have a question about, and Rick sort of alluded to it, our process, our procedure, with the 4-hour notice. And if the sponsor of legislation wants to table it, the 4 hours apply to that? Or can that be called, you know what I'm saying?
No.
How the process works for a sponsor who may want to table legislation, although they're not present, they're remote.
So if you're participating remotely, you as a board member, you have all of the same powers that you would if you were sitting in the room, other than the fact that you are not counted towards a quorum.
Okay.
So if,
Just wanted to
John,
make
you
that clear
couldn't
for
be
the vote.
here, but you could still fully participate remotely, which would include making any motion to either table a resolution or close a public hearing, whatever powers that you have here, you still maintain those remotely.
Okay, thanks.
Kathleen, this applies to all of our policy boards.
Right.
Our advisory boards, they can go fully remote, correct? They can still use Zoom to meet, or no?
I would leave that to the discretion of the town board as policymakers for how you
So we
want
haven't
to.
set that policy
We haven't
yet.
set that policy.
But I understand it was land use boards.
Well, this applies to public bodies, and public bodies under the New York State Open Meetings Law typically does not include advisory boards. It's the bigger boards, for lack of a better word, that are made.
Boards that render decisions.
Yes, decision-making authority,
We have delegated
correct.
our decision-making
Right.
authority to them.
Right. And they have to follow the procedures under Open Meetings Law 106 in terms of filing minutes with the town clerk's office, keeping those minutes. You know, they're a little bit more stringent than your advisory committees, who are there, appointed by the board, and there to help you learn a little bit more about a particular issue.
So namely, town board, planning board, zoning board, conservation board, and architectural review board.
Correct.
The other board, licensing review board, maybe.
Licensing review.
I think they would apply, yeah. Probably not landmarks, because they're advisory.
They're advisory? Landmarks? Okay.
So we'll have to look at.
We'll have to
whether
look at a couple of the
applies.
smaller boards on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Because as you know, this will.
Public Safety Commission, too, do make decisions.
It will entail, obviously, the availability of CTV and staff. So there's a couple of things that have to be considered.
Right. But we should have a list of which boards this will apply to. And we should do something so that those other advisory boards can use Zoom. Though I want the CACs to meet in person, just because I feel like you don't have the traffic issues. I think it's really important, unless it's a snowstorm or something like that.
Right.
But some of the other advisory boards, Zoom might be a better forum.
That's
You know,
entirely
if you-
within the
If you want
discretion of
people
this board.
from West Hampton to participate, or Spionk, and people from Sagaponic, it's a lot easier, I think, to get people to volunteer. Geographically, it's a big town. So I think we need to maybe have a work session to talk more
Yeah, I
about.
think
Sure.
I'd like to debate that, because I get different feedback than that, so I think it's a lot, there's some things to discuss.
Yeah, no, but we're not going to decide that tonight, just for the policy boards, though. Okay.
Does this apply to the villages, school districts, fire districts?
Yes, any public body that is subject to the Open Meetings Law, and those that you've just identified are all subject to. So yes.
So they've got to get video equipment?
If
They want
they want to do this. Again, this is a discretionary measure, and you can decide that you no longer, after June 8th, want to extend remote participation, in which case you would not adopt a local law, and you would just go back to in-person meetings.
So we could undo this. We're not
Yes.
obligated to do hybrid meetings,
That's correct,
but we can if we want to.
correct.
Okay, in this authorization that's contained here will go to when?
Well, the New York State Legislature has decided that theirs will have a sunset date of July 1st, 2024. In January of 2024, the Committee on Open Government has been charged with issuing a report on the effectiveness of this law, any changes that might be necessary, how it's worked. And so then in July of 2024, I imagine you'll either see some amendments or the law would be adopted in perpetuity.
Okay, so the statute in the packet goes till when?
2024, yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other questions for Kathleen? Thank you, that was very thorough. I will go to the public again. This is just on the fourth public hearing on the idea of allowing hybrid meetings so that town board members can participate remotely, as long as a quorum is present, and the public can participate remotely. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this issue? Mr. Tessitore.
Mike Tessitore, East Quogue. And I had no plans on even talking about this. I came for another reason, as you know.
It's good
but,
to be here in person.
As a communications major, I find this really ridiculous. And we're stuck in this world where everybody wants to get paid to not go to work. I think there'd be a lot of unaccountability with video conferencing. And I think that there's a lot of problems. You brought up a couple of good ones. One of the things from someone sitting on a screen right here is they're not able to see the audience. They're not able to see the facial expressions. They miss a lot of the body language. They miss a lot of the back and forth. They might not hear what someone is saying clearly. And it's so distracting when we're all working from home and, you know, we got the dog barking in the background. There's no accountability as to, is that person given the full 8 hours of the time that you know, in private sector that, you know, people actually expect. I see everybody recreating a lot lately, you know, and that's great. But if you're going to serve the public, I mean, there's a lot of distrust in the public right now with their officials anyway. We want to see you at work. We want to see that you're coming to work. We don't want you to be at home in your jacuzzi with your leg up, drinking a martini, holding it off camera, and throwing in your vote. I think that's a problem. You're paid to be here. I'm here tonight. All of you should be here as well. And that's how I look at it.
Right, of course, they would need extreme circumstances
Well, I
to
mean,
be able to qualify.
yeah, but it's by the chair. The chair can say, oh, yeah, it was an extreme circumstance. I mean, who's governing the chair? You
Why
know,
I asked that question.
But I thought it was a great question. You
Who's
also,
governing the chair is the public.
and the other thing that you meant, your meeting is
vote.
going to be 10 hours long, you know, especially if you have a contentious issue. And then everyone's going to get to speak, and I think they should have to show a license and show that they are a resident to speak at these meetings. We don't have time for this. This is public business. We want you to work for us. We want you to be accessible. And we don't want you staying at home and not coming here. I think there's another issue would be part-time residents that are working in the city that can't make it to one of their meetings. And now I think you have like an issue that's coming up on the agenda tonight, where someone couldn't make the meetings and had to resign from a position. You know, so what? So now people that don't have a real full-time vested interest in this community and it's only a part-time, you know, location for them, now they can stay in the city and participate in government. And I think it also gives the party in favor a real advantage, because now we're talking about the big boards. So I think that this is something that you should really sit back and think about politically. Right now, it might sound good with a left, higher number of left people and right people on this board, but that might change someday. And like you said, thank God that we'll be able to reverse that. But I think that that's going to be a big, big problem. And I think that you should all look at this very closely and realize that the pandemic, yes, it's still here, but we need to get back to work. We need to do the work of the people here. We need to listen to people that can show up to these meetings. I agree with you. People with extreme disabilities, we should find a way for them to participate in public service. But this isn't it. This is the Jetson stuff. So I would ask you to really, think about, coming back to work and seeing everyone's smiling faces. Right?
Thank you.
We're here to stay.
All right, well, I'm glad.
If you do listen to Kathleen and read the resolution, you'll realize it is extreme circumstances. There's no vacations in here, there's no, from my mom's house, it's all legit, it's all severe, you know.
It gets comfortable real quick. Once you
Yeah, I
open
don't
that
believe that
Pandora's
it-
box,
I don't believe this board or most of town hall would, entertain that thought.
yeah, well, you let it happen now, and, everyone's going to come up with an excuse. Everyone's going to go get a doctor's note.
Yeah, it's not that
I'm
easy.
not so easy.
Not that easy.
You'll be the only one sitting here, Jay, and Cindy
You have to
McNamara.
have a quorum present.
I'll be
You know?
Please.
I forgot about
At
something.
Michael,
least three.
please,
So, thank
I
you.
know you'll be
100%
here.
attendance.
Good, so then,
My
you're,
colleagues
so then
do.
I'll count you as a no vote on that, right? So you don't support it,
No, that's not what he said. But
No,
thank
I
you,
said
Michael.
I'm here, and I'm going to vote yes, just.
right,
for
really?
information.
Thank you, Michael.
But
I mean, I support this for the simple fact that I've heard from many constituents that have jobs and they work and they can't get here to sit for public portion for sometimes through 4 or 5 public hearings, but they would be able to take a lunch break and get on their Zoom and weigh in on a subject that is really important to them. So I support it more for the public's participation than I do for us being able to not be here. And I still believe in fair elections, and I believe that if there was somebody abusing this policy that wasn't showing up to work, I think it would show on election day.
So we will debate the bill a little bit later, but let's finish with the public portion. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this, the 4th public hearing?
I do have a
Okay.
question for
Kathleen?
Kathleen, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Tessitore brought up an interesting concept about residents participating in town board meetings. And this is just a question for my own edification
Yes.
and the public. When we say public portion, is that necessarily precluded to residents of the town of Southampton, or is it the public?
The public, anybody can speak.
Right, and that's part of New York State
Yes.
law? Right.
Yes.
I thought so, I just wanted to confirm that that was part of this.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I guess this is one more technical question, because, I'm struggling with
That's good stuff.
how, as the chair, and I have to manage these meetings, and I am a little bit nervous of, this board has always been sort of cutting edge, we're sometimes ahead of the curve, whether we're, restricting helium balloons or plastic straws, or, these are topics that we might have thousands of people now wanting to weigh in on these things, but we also might have people who are really inappropriate with their language. We might have, like in social media, bots or something, who knows what we're gonna get. Can I, as chair, restrict people? Can I shut them down if I feel like their language is inappropriate?
Sure. So yes, and this did come up a little bit at the work session discussion, and I believe Charles is here to address that issue. But as the moderator, Charles certainly has the opportunity to cut people off. I'll let him speak. I don't want to speak for him, but I do believe that he has the authority and the ability in the event that somebody is becoming inappropriate, using profanity, to stop the feed, so to speak.
Okay, Charles? Come on up. This is a rare appearance of Charles Certain. This is this
Speak
is-
into the mic.
This is the man who's hidden in the back. This is like an Oz moment.
So,
The Wizard of Oz.
don't pay attention to the guy. And
This is Charles Certain, who
So-
is managing these meetings from the back room here for CTV.
so I've been doing Zoom for about 2.5 years. I think it's about 2.5. Never had an incident. If I do have an incident, I can cut them off. That's not a problem. But I think it's important to have the constituents have the ability to come on.
Are you going to be able to handle this in a way that we'll be able to clearly hear what people are saying?
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay. And if a town board member is in here, is there, they're going to appear there, right?
The Zoom will be on, I can have them on both, so the audience can see.
Okay.
And the Zoom members can see everything that CTV sees.
We used to have one up here, too. There used to be a screen behind me.
Screen, yeah.
Okay, I guess,
But one screen can go that way, one screen can go this way.
okay.
And you can split screen the view of the audience for someone who's not here. correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They'll be able to see you, you can see them.
Okay, we're going to go back to the public, but thank you, Charles.
You're welcome.
All right, ma'am. You cannot speak from the chair. If you want to speak, you're going to have to come up to the podium, identify yourself, and then you can speak your mind. But this is on, again, the fourth public hearing.
Professor Robin from City Tech, and I teach 40 people online at a time, and I can see them, they can see me, I can hear them, they can hear me. If somebody wants to come into the scene, they are able to do that. I'm able to shut people down. I'm able to put people in chat rooms so they can discuss things. It is really very effective. It's not terribly effective with students if they don't care. But if people are interested in the topic and are awake enough to participate, then it works very well.
Thank you. So now we know how to find you, and we can use your technical expertise, I guess, if you're volunteering it. So thank you, Professor. All right. Anyone else who wishes to be heard on the fourth public hearing? Okay, I will make a motion to close.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now that's our last public hearing. We're going to go to public portion. I think most of you are here for that. A couple of you were interested in that last topic and spoke, but I don't know the order. I may have nervously shuffled these about, so I'm just going to take them in the order that they happen to be in front of me. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to make their comments known. The clerk will let you know when your last 30 seconds, when you hit that last 30-second point. All right, so let me put my glasses on. And I got John Roddy from Hampton Bays. John, you want to pass for now? All right, I'm going to pass, and we'll go to Barbara Lefkowitz. If you don't want to go first, just let me know, and I'll skip over you. And you are? Irene Anthony from, I guess, Hampton Bays, I'm assuming. Come on up.
Good evening, Supervisor and the Town Board. I'm glad there's not a lot of people here because I'm really nervous. So, my name is Irene Anthony. I'm from Hampton Bays, and I have been here almost 4 years, and my issue is private roads. I have been on a journey trying to find out how we can work this out, that it helps both people who live on public roads and people who are actually discriminated on the private roads. Our problem is that I met with the superintendent of Highway, Charlie, wonderful, and Mark, and I spoke to the tax assessor, and, you know, everyone says just bring it to the town board. So here I am. The problem is that and I've been on the CAC when I hear all this about so many people coming into Hampton Bays now, you know, the density, and what's happening is the private roads are being used by everyone, you know, Amazon, you know, I mean, not just for our street, but they use our streets. The landscapers are using our streets, you know, they don't even have any business being on our streets. But those trucks are ruining our roads. The potholes get bigger and bigger, and we fill them. I'm almost 70, and I'm out there buying stuff to fill out our potholes. How long am I going to be doing this? I don't know. But, you know, it's a problem. And I know that owning, living on a private road, when we first bought my house and built it, they said that, you know, you have to maintain your road. At that time, the road was fine. You know, you didn't think you were going to have to spend $2,000 to $3,000 now to make it better. And that's a lot of money out of our pocket, you know, to use, and everyone else is using it as well. Now, Charlie was really funny. He said, you know, it's so bizarre because there's no laws. You can park your car at the beginning of the private road and one at the end, and no one can use your road except the residents. Do we really want to do that? No. We want to be part of the community, but the community has to understand that we're not getting a fair shake in all this. So I was thinking, you know, you have private roads and you have, and correct me if I'm wrong, so I don't know this, and you have private roads and you have town roads. We don't want a town road, okay? My property is 46 feet wide. I don't want, the neighbors either don't want all our front lawns to go away. And we don't want to have a bond for God knows how much money to make it a town road. That's not even what I'm asking. I'm asking is, could we have a third category of through roads like ours, like Ocean, like Shore, like Atlantic, that people are using them to get to Tiana, especially come the summer. And those roads are just getting so beat up. We can't afford it, you know? I mean, yeah, could I put down a $6,000 thing in front of me? Yeah, I could. I could. Luckily, I don't have that problem in front of my house. But the guy next door and the guy after them, no. And a lot of them are renters. So they can't ask their landlords, you know, to fix the road in front of them. And yet, if you drove down my road and something happened and you were injured, you can sue me. It's not fair. You know, I know this has been a long time issue. I first started here with you, Jay, talking about it at, you know, at the civic meetings. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, we have 450 streets and, you know, in Southampton, it has its problems. But the town is really being very discriminatory against us because you're using it, you're coming down our roads, and we're paying for it. It's just not fair. So can't we just name that a certain other road, like a through road, private, public, through road, and get some allowance to help Charlie have the money to help better pave our potholes? I mean, we're doing it too.
30
We just
seconds.
need some help.
So
That's what I'm asking.
let me speak to this a little bit, because this has been a real challenge.
I know,
A
I've been
real
everywhere.
challenge. And yeah, traffic patterns, you know, with the trade parade, everything has been changing, and it is completely unfair that you have a road that everybody cuts through, and you have to pay for it. And it's really expensive, and the only choice is to try to get everybody together and bring it up to town highway standards, and.
And we don't. We've done
and
that. We don't want that.
And, right, and that's really expensive, but once we do take it in, then we maintain it forevermore, plow it, et cetera. I mean,
We don't want that
it is a
because we can't afford it.
Well, if it was affordable, would you want that? I guess that's a question. Let's, because there was an initiative, there was an attempt at a townwide road improvement district, and certain arteries like what you're describing, ones that aren't just a cul-de-sac to a neighborhood, but are being used as like a connector road, would get a significant allocation to help incentivize it being brought up to town highway standards. You know, if there was a pot of money that could offset the cost, would you want that? Would you want to make it a
I would
town?
have to go down to my road, because I'm really interested.
Yeah, you'd have to talk to all the
and
property
talk
owners.
to them. Unfortunately, our road on Atlantic is 46 feet wide. That's a huge amount that you have to take off from our properties. It's a really big
Not
amount.
necessarily. Kathleen, a typical town road,
It's 50, it's 25.
50 the right-of-way,
The
but the
right-of-way.
actual road is not.
22 feet.
It usually has 8 to 10 feet on each side.
10.5 on either side.
Some of those are
It's a lot.
it's one way in some area. I
Yeah.
mean, I used to work for years on Shore Road,
Oh,
And it was literally.
Is that where you live, Shore?
I live on Atlantic.
Atlantic.
But it was always this very quiet road because nobody wanted to go on Shore Road because literally the potholes are filled with bricks and concrete and anything anybody can find to fill a pothole. And you would literally drive around these potholes and half through them, and it's not a cut-through road. So during COVID, all of a sudden, or not it was during COVID, it was once Waze really caught on, we were working there one day and just noticed this stream of cars. And I said to the homeowner, I said, what's going on? Why are all these? She said, Waze. So we did go on, and I actually went onto your road today, and I went on Waze, and I marked it as a private road. Some people don't know you could do that. You can go onto Waze and you can request that it be labeled on Waze as a private road.
Thank you.
So it helps because it takes it out of the system as a public throughway.
Yes.
So I think a lot of the people, because like the people that know your roads aren't taking your roads because they know they're not getting through there any kinds of fast. And I did check with the highway superintendent, and you can put in those temporary speed bumps if you want to.
We live on a speed bump.
I get it, but I'm just, you know.
We're there.
You know, 2 or 3 more might deter those people even more from using your road.
And you know what, that's a great solution. And we do that, we have to get that done ourselves.
Yes.
Okay, I understand that.
I'm not, I mean, maybe Christine could tell us a little bit in terms of what your rights are, in terms of what you can do with a private road. Could you make it one way? Could you dead end it? Could you set speed limits? I don't really know the answer to that, but that is not the direction I think we should go in.
Right.
I think that's wrong. I think that that's going to put traffic elsewhere, and that, you know, we're just going to make the problem worse for somebody else. I'd rather see if we could come up with some money to match local money, you know, in the neighborhood, and see if we can get an agreement to bring it into the town highway system so that you get plowed, you get your road maintained and all of that. I'm willing to work with Charlie on that.
Extremely appreciate that, really.
That
This
seems-
is a 4-year baby.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me like that should be a town road, but it's really not fair to make you guys, you know, foot the bill for all the wear and tear that you're getting from people who don't live in your neighborhood. I don't know. Christine, where are we with that? Do you know? Are you familiar with the town, not Town Law 200, but it was a town, Fred Thiel had some legislation
We
passed.
talked about that some time ago. I don't think it went, it was, I think, right before COVID. I don't think it went anywhere. I think it was kind of a dead end, no pun intended.
The
But we
communities-
also did a study years and years ago to categorize a lot of these roads. But since COVID and since Waze and all these other things, I think that it might be interesting and a good practice to maybe update that to account for all these new traffic patterns now that have maybe some of these roads that before would not qualify, would now qualify based on what's happened over the last several years.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm gonna
remember we had like
recategorize.
different categories, and we'd say we would provide nothing in this case, we
Right.
would provide 25%.
Priorities too, we
In
have.
this case, 50%, maybe even 75% of the cost, if it's really like a connector road. You know, and that might make it really cheap, but it would be paid for by the whole town, basically, or
In
at
part.
least outside the village.
Outside the immediate residence.
The villages wouldn't pay, but the general fund of the
And would
town,
all the residents on that road have to agree to it?
or the part-time fund.
51%.
Well, yes, they would.
Because it's a double-edged sword. You pave those roads, they're gonna be
Well, some
straight up
people like their
thoroughfares.
dirt roads and things like that, they don't want to have anything to do with this, but, yeah, it would have to be done to town standards, which might mean the removing of some landscaping, I don't know, we'd have to talk to the engineers, and, we would have to get, you know, we'd have to have a public hearing, we'd have to post a bond and allocate it based on some fair funding formula.
Well,
But
also to
certainly
identify the
those,
type of road too, you know, that's pass through versus dead end and,
right,
you know, because it's roughly 200 miles.
I mean, like Shore Road is a classic example. That is really no different in terms of its use than, you know, Fanning or something.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm just Shore Road, some of the telephone poles are, 25 feet into the front yards.
A lot of them are. But is it, I mean, can't we do something just easier? Just, allocate some money to the town to just have Charlie come and, fill the potholes 4 times a year?
Charlie, on an emergency basis, can go out there and do something, but not on a routine basis. So he can do slight regrading, just to make sure an ambulance or police car can get
Yeah.
down there. It's never been good with these private roads, because some people end up paying more than others. Like, you don't have a mechanism to get everybody's fair share. And if somebody says, I don't want to pay to maintain my road, somebody else is doing it. So you're out there filling potholes. Other streets are pretty well organized, and everybody shares a portion of the cost of maintaining their road, including snow plowing. But we've had other roads where, 1 or 2 people are paying for everybody to, so that they could fill the potholes. That's not fair. That's unfortunate. Do you have a homeowners association on your street or anything like that?
No, and that was another thing I was trying for. The problem is a lot of our people are, they only come for the summer, and a lot are Hispanic. They don't speak English. They don't answer the door. A lot of them are rented. They don't answer the door. So our street isn't really bad, because we try to maintain it on our individually. I know my 2 neighbors from me, she's getting an estimate, I think she got one for $8,000 to do the front of her property, okay? Because it's terrible. Luckily, it's in front of her yard, and she can afford it, and so she's going to do that. I have just small hole, just starting. I bought the stuff, and I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's not a lot of work. It's just something that can be done every once in a while. I mean, how long can it go on for? I'm there 4 years. What's going to happen in 10 years? The road's just going to rot away.
Your question is a good one, and we have private roads and folks who are in your similar position throughout the town. So you're actually asking us about the 170 different roads that are in your situation that we would have to,
But it's going to have to get looked at some
provide that
point.
kind of service.
So it's
Oh, I
a
agree.
fair, objective way of distributing the money. Because there's people who've had to foot the bill to make their road a town road. They've paid for it. And now suddenly there's going to be this program helping other people do it. But I think that the public will support it if there's a fair formula and the money is sort of geared toward those roads that legitimately are being used as town roads now. They're major thoroughfares.
Yeah, I don't think all roads are, all private roads are.
No.
There are some that are. And maybe we can look at them and
We can
just try to help
establish a
out.
committee to help advise on that, which roads, but, now, is that an urban renewal where they, like, when a new lot gets developed, they pay a certain fee that goes toward improving the road?
That's a road review, yeah. I was gonna say the
Road review?
We have a road review board
different.
that does that for vacant
So when a
lots
new
that
house
come
gets
in.
built on your road, they have to do some work on the private road?
I did. My
You did.
house is new.
Right, and did you have to pay like do like $20,000 worth of work?
I am, so did my daughter, I'm sure. And wasn't a very good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did it too. I had to get, the lines put in, and, I paid my share. But there's no houses going up on it.
Right, it does- that's-
There's some roads.
Those
Who's
aren't-
going to go want to live there?
But you don't want the road privatized, made public town road. If you
For my
explain why,
last
what you're thinking of them.
petition, when I went down to see these people like 2 years ago, and I had submitted that petition over to Alex, when he was superintendent, it's now lost. They were not interested. And don't forget, these is as many people as I can get because of the translation and, none out living here. I got I would say about 75% after many weeks of pounding down doors. And if it costs them any money, like rumor has it, oh my God, it's going to cost you $10,000 in tax. I mean, there's all rumors out there of how much it's really going to cost. We don't have a real figure that maybe you could say, we can't afford this. But
Yeah.
I don't know, if they say no, you're going to have someone else standing here in 2 years from you and saying, hey, my road is totally deplorable.
Yeah.
What can we do?
I know, I wish that, Obviously, you can't charge a toll for people going through that. You could use that money to repair the road.
Well,
But
Charlie said yes.
You might be able to. You charge them as they go. You got to set it up like
No,
an
Charlie
easy
said,
pass.
hey, Irene, wait, you got
So-
like an extra car?
And the town can't just help you maintain your private road.
Isn't there anything you could do just to
There is.
change the law?
Well, we did. So Fred Thiel, Assemblyman Thiel, authorized a town-wide highway district, which we haven't enacted locally, but we could. We could pass legislation so that we could bond money and offer some assistance. You still would be back in that position of trying to gather all the residents together. We would put it in the tax bill, but maybe they'd only be paying a quarter of the price to bring it up to town highway standards rather than 100% of the price. So what I'm going to ask, since Rick is liaison to the highway department, is for you to sort of to take this on. We can maybe, why don't we set up a committee, we'll do a resolution to establish a committee. Let's bring this issue back, and maybe we will then enact a, town-wide road improvement district, and we would then be able to have the money to offer some incentive. It still would be up to you to organize your neighbors and say, this is what the town is offering for our street. Do we want to do this? And you need 51% to say yes. And-
Yeah, that's fine it's fine. I just think that it's an issue that's just going to be ongoing. We're going to be
It's not
100
going
years
away.
old, and it's just is going to be ongoing.
It's,
I can't believe we can't solve it.
it's not going away. Well, there's things that you possibly can do now to solve your problem,
Okay, well, let me know.
like do not enter signs. you know?
Irene, I
You
want
do.
They have
I have. Did you see it? Thank you.
private road.
Private road.
Guests
Yeah,
only.
we have it. I mean, we went out.
Yeah,
with
so
two
we have
signs.
issues of even enforcing on private roads. So you can put your own sign up, but we can't write a ticket.
No, I know you can't.
Yeah.
I know you can't. I mean, we can do a lot of things, Charlie said, to our road. I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna like
I
this.
would ask
You know.
I
Kathleen
wonder,
first.
can you put a gate up, like a electronic gate?
Good. And how much is that gonna cost me to do that? I'll move to Quogue. See, they
I
have
don't-
nicer roads.
So you give everybody gets one for their vehicle, the thing that opens the gate, I don't know.
I think that's a great idea.
I don't like any of that, because that's not, the right answer for a road like yours is it becomes a town road. That's the right answer, so.
That's the right answer, but I don't know if these late middle age or elderly people are gonna go to do that. It's really, I'm honest about it. I mean, there's very little people on that road that can afford to pay any more taxes, and that's a problem.
Right.
Listen, I'm only here for a few years, so I'm just trying to get it resolved, that I could say, there's
Yeah,
no more
there's
of those
no
roads
an-
in Hampton Bays, I solved it.
There's no answer that's not gonna involve some funding of some sort, so.
I get it.
But we could see if we could come up with a formula that makes it easier. Yeah, and spreads it out over 30 years, and it could be very minor,
And that's
adjustment in the
wonderful.
tax.
Half of us are gonna be dead by then, so that'll
So-
be okay with
Let's
me.
hope not.
But in the
All right.
meantime, I did mark it as private on Waves, so.
And thank you for that.
All right, so Rick, are you
Irene,
willing?
before you run away, I just want to say thank you for your time on the CAC. It was nice to have
Oh, you know what?
Very
It was-
sorry to
it-
see you go.
Thank you very much. I left it, I retired from there, because I really, my passion was the private roads, and it wasn't anyone's focus, and I understand it, but I just felt I didn't have anything intelligent to bring to that meeting.
Sure
I
you
don't
did.
know a lot of the stuff that's going on with water, and I just felt like I was taking up a seat, and maybe someone else can sit there better and give some better advice than me.
Sunday, did we?
So that's why I
We
left.
used to have we used to have a private road committee, didn't we? There was a standing committee.
Transportation Commission.
John
We
Watson.
also have a study.
John Watson used to.
Yeah, so let's revive it. Do we want citizens on it? Do we want just technical people? We'll have to figure that out.
Okay.
You want to serve, I take it, right? So if we put it together, you,
I'll bring snacks and whatever, and I brought Charlie coffee, and next
All right,
thing you
good.
know, I
have
got
had
the road done the following
discussions
day,
about it.
just
I
saying.
think this,
Country road in between, like an in-between.
but that's a whole
That would help.
separate thing. So, and maybe with the new highway superintendent, what Councilman Martell is saying is, up until now, there was only one choice. If you wanted to be a town road, you had to meet a certain standard, and the highway superintendent insisted that, you know, it has to be this width, it has to be, asphalt has to be this thick, it has to have this many storm drains, et cetera. It's got to be big enough for the fire truck to turn around, whatever it is. So, and I'm not faulting Mr. Greger for that. It was pretty standard. But some areas do use, they have a second standard, a country road standard, that is more fitting in a rural community, that doesn't look like a suburban roadway. It looks more like a country roadway. And whether, you know, the new highway superintendent is willing to do that. If that's the case, you know, and it may not be the case, because, you know, the snow plows may chew it up and whatever it is, the highway superintendent might not accept it, because he has to, at the end of the day, accept it into the highway system. That's up to the highway superintendent. But this highway superintendent might be willing to do that. That would lower the cost of constructing the road significantly. So that's a good suggestion. We could explore that with the new highway superintendent.
Great.
So-
Well, I met with him, and he seemed very amicable to helping us out in any way he could. He just said his hands are tied. You know, he said they truly are. If I could do it, I would do it. So maybe if you propose something, you know, from there, maybe he would listen to it, you know. So that would be, anything you can do, I would really
There is a
appreciate
solution.
it.
What I laid out is, I think, a solution. We just have to figure out which roads
Okay.
get how much of an allocation.
Perfect.
So,
And if our road, Atlantic, gets a little bit less, I understand. Because the other roads are really bad.
But you don't cut all the way through.
Yeah, but the other roads do.
So
I
Jane,
followed
so
a truck the
I
other day,
sit
and
here-
I asked him if he was on our street, and he said, no, I'm just cutting through. I said, you can't.
I worry because I've driven those roads many times, and I regrettably do that because they're so bad that if you did have an improved road on either one of those,
Yeah.
it would become a drag strip. I
Straight.
mean, it really, I'm a little worried
And-
about
And
that.
that's a problem, too. That's why it didn't have to be, you know, like a baby's butt, you know, just something, potholes, just filled, you know, because we don't want huge traffic, but just something that's walkable. You know,
Well,
it's a
see-
walkable
see,
town.
What happens is that
You
when
can't have it both
you
ways.
start having the potholes are a result of rain and snow and those sorts of things. And the roads that have to be town roads or state roads or, you know, whatever road that designation gets, it needs a lot of drainage. That's where the cost comes. If you start to imagine the cost per mile, just to build a road that has to handle the runoff and be able to handle that type of traffic and certain loads, it becomes quite expensive. And that's a little bit of the hesitancy. I like the supervisor's idea that maybe we can find a way to share those costs across the town. You know, how many roads we bring into the town highway system is not a lot, because there's a lot of pushback to do that. You know, in your case, you know, you're on a road that's a pass-through road. It's being used not for the intent it was there, not for the quiet enjoyment of the residents who want to have a private road. I totally understand that. But I think there is a solution. The right people get on it.
it's figuring out the numbers, because
Thank you.
you know, you're
Anything
paying
we
for it
appreciate.
now. You're buying bags of asphalt. I mean, you're paying something. If it were in your property taxes, and now you don't have to pay for plowing and all those other things,
Well,
and
we
it-
do get assessed less, you know.
yeah.
I think it's $50,000 in our tax assessment. Because we're on a private road, our tax assessment is lower because of that. So, I don't know what that means as far as my taxes, what's $50,000 if I didn't have that lessened, what that would be. I mean, if it's a few,
Can you just come up to the mic a little bit? Just a little closer.
oh, if
Thank
it's a few $100s, I don't think that's gonna be a problem, but, you know, I just wanted to alert you to that too,
Right.
to be, you know, put it all out there.
We can look at that. Now, ultimately, it would be up to the residents of that street to make that final decision,
Okay,
to weigh out, you know, what they're paying now for snow plowing or whatever it is, and will it increase their property values being on a public road versus a private road? Would it hurt their property? I don't know the answer to
I
those
don't know
things.
either.
But ultimately, we could put together something so that we could perhaps participate in improving the road.
Okay,
And then the decision becomes yours, so.
okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your time and your input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Irene did really well, considering you were scared.
You were so
to-
nervous,
Yeah,
right?
nervous to come up here. You got very comfortable. And now you're a regular. You're going to be a regular now. All right. On that subject, anybody else? I know, Mike, I got you in here too.
a private road, too, so I get 6 minutes?
No, we're going to get to you. So, so Barbara or Regina, did you guys want to speak on the same issue?
Or others.
There's a 3-minute time limit. Watch out.
Yeah, I understand. It's,
Basically, I agree with everything Irene said. I live a few houses away from her,
Barbara, can you state your full name first?
Barbara Lefkowitz.
Thank you.
And I do live on Atlantic. And right before my property, there are huge potholes. When it rains, it's a lake, major lake. And as far as people not speeding down the road, drag stripping down the road, there have been people that go flying down the road, even with those potholes. And a majority of them are in trucks or, some kind of vehicle that could handle. I don't have a truck. I have a car. And I also have a handicapped husband. And I'm concerned when he decides when he's feeling better and he wants to take a walk down the road, it's very difficult for me not to peer out the window to make sure that he's gotten where he needs to go. The last thing I would need would be for him to fall in the street and break a hip, even though I hear that we're responsible for it anyway. And I do worry about people speeding down the streets. What you were talking about, country roads, sounds like it might be good. I think of being upstate, and a lot of those roads upstate are in fairly decent condition, as opposed to ours. But it just seems like people, the word got out that they could take this shortcut. It's too bad another road wasn't like a spur for Montauk Highway so that these cars could take that shortcut instead of our blocks being used as shortcuts. And also, I was wondering, sidewalks. Is there any plan for sidewalks for Poncog, Springville, East Tiana?
there's been a lot of requests for sidewalks in certain areas of Hampton Bays. That are, a lot of pedestrian traffic, so we're working on that, right?
Yeah.
We're working on that.
Yeah, it's pretty
Along
treacherous to walk down, like Springville.
Springville, yes.
Tiana.
Ponquag, perhaps, yeah.
Ponquag definitely, I don't know if we've talked about Springville.
So, sidewalks are surprisingly expensive, but we're looking at it.
Yeah, and not to beat an old horse, but the diner.
Or 3 minutes up,
It is up.
I knew that could hold fines.
The diner is privately owned piece of property, it's owned highway business.
It's falling apart now.
It's all, yes, it's been abandoned.
Can it be
The use
condemned?
has not been, it hasn't been actively used for some time now.
Long time.
The current owners have been discussing some other potential uses. They seem interested in some kind of resort type of use, like a boutique hotel there.
Or could they
Right,
just,
it's
like, knock it down? Is there anybody living
It's
in there?
private property, so they could, there's a lot of things that could happen as of right under zoning. Could be another restaurant, it could be an appliance store, medical offices, all kinds of things. They right now are interested in a boutique hotel, which is not allowable under zoning, so it's something that we are reviewing
Yeah.
internally. I personally think that might be a nice thing for that location, so we're trying to sort that out.
Yeah.
Eventually, Hampton Bay's economy is strengthening, and that is a key location.
And what about
It's a very
this-
key location, but the property owners continue to pay their taxes, and it's quite high, and right now, there's no requirement that they modify that building in any way.
I was sitting on Montauk Highway, waiting to go into Stop and Shop, and there's that yellow old gas station that had the gas leak. What's going on with that property? It's kind of a beige yellow, cement.
Latch's property.
Do you know anything about it?
I think they're in front of the zoning board trying to get some kind of gas station and convenience store.
Because it just seems like from 24 that way now, it's starting to, now we have the Body Barn that's going to be vacant, and
Oh, that has a new owner.
it has no owner, something's going to be done with it.
Yes.
Okay. Just don't, want more deterioration in the town than there is. It's always,
Nobody does, but
yeah, it's always been my pet peeve. Anyway, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
thank you. All right,
Yeah, I think Kathleen can confirm that, but I believe a gas station and a convenience location there.
Regina, did you want to speak? Professor Robin, we learned earlier.
Regina Robin. Irene covered most of what I wanted to speak about. Oh, by the way, I hope you've all seen the Broadway show, The Minutes.
The what?
The what?
The Broadway show, The Minutes.
The
It's
Minutes?
about this. This is exactly what the set looks like. I thought I was back in Broadway. You really should see it. It is perfect. At any rate, I really need some information. I'm not concerned, I am concerned with both Shore and Atlantic, but Poplar is a mess, but it's very much a private street. But I've been given 5 different pieces of information about what we can do and not do. One person told me that if we pave it, we have to put in drainage. Another person told me we couldn't put gravel down. I know nothing about road construction. So people would be more willing to listen to me if I had actual information about what you're allowed to do and not do.
This is a
on
private road. You can pave it, you can put gravel. If you want to make it into a town road, that's a different story.
No, just,
You can pretty much, you might want to consult your attorneys in terms of what you put down. If you're going to do something that is potentially hazardous to somebody, that would be a problem. But as far as I know, if you want to regrade your road, put gravel on your road, put storm
where do I
drains
go to
in.
get the information of what is feasible and what would work, et cetera? Because I
You're
was,
not trying to make it a town road. You're just
No.
doing repairs, and
well, repairs, I mean, it's,
you probably don't have a mechanism to collect and apportion fair share from all the properties, right?
there's
everybody-
been a tacit agreement that 4 or 5 people will chip
So
in.
all you're looking for is where to get information on how roads are constructed.
Yeah, I need
We have a town
information.
engineer, Tom Houghton, and I'll put you in touch with him if you reach out to my office.
Okay,
And I'll make sure that you have somebody to correspond, because he can rattle that off in a heartbeat. And
So, but maybe from Kathleen or from Christine, in terms of what they're allowed to do, it's private property. But our rules apply to private property. You can't just put in impervious surfaces in certain places. So do they have to get approval from environmental planning or anything if they want to, let's say, asphalt a road? There's going to be impacts to stormwaters and things like that.
Yeah, we would have to sit down with them. Every property is different and has different deed restrictions. It depends on what that would say. If there are different covenants that are attached to the properties, I couldn't possibly make a.
So they might need a
statement.
permit to do the work?
I don't know, yeah. I'd have to
It's
see it.
really
Probably,
varied.
probably not because it is a
That's
private
why.
road, but I would still need to look at it.
Okay, so we're going to help you figure out what you can and can't do on your private property.
Thank
all
you.
right? And, well, John will hook you up with the engineer. He can advise you in terms of road construction, and somebody from the town attorney's office can advise you whether you're going to need permits for some of those things.
Thank you,
Okay?
thank you.
All right. And the gentleman in the back, John, you still don't want to speak, or? Okay, all right. Last but certainly not least, Michael.
Mike Tessitore, East Quogue. I, too, live on a private road, so I was glad I sat in on this meeting. But just to point out on that, Waze and Google Maps, we've reported multiple times, take us off, take us off. They don't. Maybe see if you can do some type of legislative where you can, action where you can penalize them for not removing the properties, the private roads. That might help. We had someone tried driving over my neighbor's lawn with Belgian blocks on it because Wave said that they can go through it. So I feel horrible for these women. I've been dealing with for 21 years, which coincidentally was the same year that we adopted the CPF legislation, and that's why I'm here tonight to speak to you about.
Nice segue.
Thank you, sir. So I sent you 2 emails. One was back prior to our new board member, Councilman McNamara. And then I just sent you another one on 5/10 of 22. We have community preservation properties. As you know, those properties, there are certain ones that can be utilized for hunting. Since the pandemic, there has been a lot of pressure on these properties from people that live outside the area. And being a resident, a property owner who paid 2% of the sale of my home into this, CPF fund, I think it's time that we start looking at a mechanism to utilize these properties for resident use only. Maybe some type of a parking permit where if you're a resident taxpayer, you can, to park at these properties to access them for hunting, hiking, bird watching, bicycling, whatever it may be. 2 weeks ago, we had a youth turkey hunt, and it's kind of special because from ages 12 to 15, you can take a child out into the field to go turkey hunting for the weekend on Long Island, which Long Island doesn't have a turkey hunting season. They will next year, because that's something that DEC is looking to do. But I brought my 14-year-old into the woods, and it was on public land opportunities and, some private spots. But on the public land spots, we've noticed a lot of cameras, trail cameras. And hunters use trail cameras, and they put them on the property so that they can document deer. But really, a lot of hunters are starting to use them to document who's coming into that area where their stands are, or they leave their equipment in there, right? And CPF has been pretty good with sending a park ranger and going around the properties and leaving, notes, take your tree stand down, but the cameras are still there. And I worry, for the future, especially, like with an unlawful surveillance issue, I don't need someone, because they're not doing it for security issues. I'm not saying they're doing it for perverted issues or as well, but there is a code in New York State Consolidated Penal Law, 250-45, Section 5, where it kind of says the person putting a camera for his or her own or another individual's amusement, entertainment, profit, and then it goes into sexual arousement or gratification for the purpose of degrading or abusing person. The act intentionally uses or installs or permits the utilization of installation of an imaging device and to surreptitiously view, broadcast, or record another person in an identifiable manner. Section C of that says, at a place and time when such person has a reasonable expectation of privacy without the person's knowledge and consent. Now, when you're on these private, these public lands, there is an expectation of privacy because you're participating in hunting to a point where, you're not. We use cameras in this building, you use cameras in this building, government uses the cameras for security issues, right? Those cameras are taking pictures of a minor child, right? I don't know what that individual, that person is doing with those photographs. Some people might like, little boys in camo. Regardless of the fact, I think that that's another issue that we might have to address in the future is, there's 15 cameras in the woods. I don't have any privacy walking around in there. And most of the reason for these cameras, which is supposed to pattern deer movements, I think really are just to monitor who's going in and out of there. So it is a surveillance issue. And that's something that I wanted to bring to your attention. And I know I sent this letter in September of 21. I sent it recently, 2 weeks ago. And I just want to see where the board was at. I did get email correspondence from Councilman Scavone. Thank you, sir. Bouvier and Councilwoman McNamara. And I thank you for responding to my email when I did send it. Councilman Martell must have had his leg up that day,
With the martini in the hot dog? Mike, the cameras that you're talking about, these are private cameras, not
Private.
that the town has placed in the
No,
woods.
no.
These are hunters who are,
I don't know if they're hunters. They're personally owned by someone else, by another individual. They have the potential of sending text. Most of them that I see are text cameras, video
well, certainly
to
like
their phones.
the town has the absolute right to place our video cameras.
I
Whether
agree.
we're trying to catch ATV users or for public safety
For surveillance.
purposes. And, you do not have a reasonable expectation of privacy on public lands in general. In fact, you're in a public place, there are probably cameras. You can walk down
Right.
Main Street of the village, there's cameras. Even potentially in the woods. But private cameras, I am uncomfortable with. Like, if you didn't get a permit to place that camera there, and I don't know why we'd issue a permit to allow somebody to place a camera in our park.
I'm not asking for that. I'm asking, first off, that we pass
No,
legislation
I
that we don't allow cameras on public land,
Right.
and that you would need some type of local permit to park to access that
So
property.
that's a separate thing, so because CPF is a New York State authorized tax on real property, I don't think we can take a CPF parcel and say it's restricted to town residents.
But other towns do, and they use it on the managerial clause.
Yeah.
Because you're given that, you're
I don't
charged
know,
with the
and we
management of
probably
it.
do have some restrictions, but in my past experience says that CPF lands are open to the public.
Yeah.
But, somebody else can weigh in and tell me I'm wrong on that. But, so I don't know, and I know there are questions about which properties are appropriate for hunting, which ones are not appropriate for hunting.
Right, because it comes in the master plan, how each
That's
property is preserved when it's being purchased.
Separate thing.
You do have the right to manage the property. And as the manager of that property, because you control the funding, right? The 5 eastern townships each have money, and they're given the control to control that property. Southold is very restricted. They only allow Southold residents. East Hampton does the same
I'll
thing.
get some input in a second, but the idea of putting cameras, private, if Joe Public goes out there and puts a camera in the woods, in a public park, that sounds like that should not be allowed.
Or
Agreed.
any equipment.
Could be spying,
Agreed. Because I was going to say, if you felt comfortable with it, I could put my cameras on the pillar over here, and record people, right? It's kind of weird. Or on a telephone pole, it's just bizarre to me.
So I'm not really that familiar with the laws surrounding that type of thing,
Yeah.
but it's our property.
Yeah.
And so somebody
Correct.
putting a camera on our property seems like they would at least need some approval to place that, pay some licensing fee or whatever it is. I'd have to understand the purpose.
Right.
If somebody says, listen, I'm doing scientific study on osprey nesting, and I want to put a camera on that osprey nest,
Yeah.
I probably would say yes. as
And
long
they
as
can
it's not
identify that
interfering.
camera they could register it with the town, so.
Yeah,
so you-
if there's some legitimate purpose for putting a camera in the woods,
Right.
you know, because they're studying nocturnal salamander activity, whatever it might be,
Right.
yeah, that, you know.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring
Some
that to your
university,
attention, because
yeah.
I find it, you know, I think it's disturbing. I used to support the cameras. There are several states that have banned cameras, but it was really, it had to do with fair chase opportunities. It wasn't about, you know, like surveillance issues, you know, unlawful surveillance. But I think that, you know, it's just another thing that, since the pandemic, we have more people utilizing these woods. And, you know, in the email, I brought to your attention the use of homeless camps. And, you know, back when I was a kid, you know, 40 years ago, we would have keg parties, right? And, you know, you'd see all the beer cans in the woods and the sumps. And you know, now everyone stays home anyway, so they just drink at home when the parents aren't there. But now we have people living in these woods, you know? And I just, you know, want to bring that to your attention.
I don't know, does anybody want to further look into this idea about the cameras or the
Yeah,
parking?
the cameras are a problem everywhere. The cameras are a problem on county land, they're a problem on state land. I've removed them from private land. It's what basically gives hunters a bad name and a bad rap. It's the few that go out and they do things they're not supposed to, like put tree stands on private property and put trail cams on private property. And I personally don't think restricting properties is going to solve a problem, because as we all know, there are people that get dropped off and they walk onto completely posted private property and they'll go in and hunt it. It's not going to stop anybody who's doing something wrong from doing it because you say you can't do it. It's public property. It shouldn't be happening. Just like we had hunters go in and remove trailblazes from all of the trails that the Trails Preservation Society took the time to go out and mark, stuff like that gives hunters a bad name.
These cameras stay there, like the
They'll
hunter?
put them there, they get, you can.
It's not, they're not putting there while they're hunting, just to
No,
alert
they
them.
stay there so they can see who's coming in, what
So like
animals are
they're
around.
at home or watching?
Yeah,
You
you
can get it
get
right
a
on your
text.
Yeah.
You get a text as soon as the image comes
You can see
in.
trails.
Oh,
you
there's
can
a
see
deer.
animals on
Go out to the
trails.
woods.
No,
so
it's
you
just,
can-
it's just so you could see, it's more to see who's, like, he's absolutely correct. It's more or less to see
Yeah, but
who's
it's a
using, who's
very
in the
hard
area.
thing to enforce, you know, like we've talked about this before, you know, it's, I think Lisa was trying to keep some kind of registry, Lisa.
It's not, it's really not hard to enforce, because we have a
Well, bear in mind
ranger.
the size of the CPF properties we're talking about, you know, we're close to 5,000 acres.
Yeah, but if I'm in those woods and I find cameras and I can document them and give the
And take it
CPF ranger
back.
a
Yeah,
map,
well, that's what I'm thinking. I
he
think
can
that's
go and he
the
can
You
problem.
can
remove
still
them.
do that, and they can still remove them, because it's public, it's not,
I'm saying the CPF ranger can remove them. I'm not going to steal
no,
someone
that's what I'm
else's
saying, you can
property.
do that now. and they
Yeah,
can
I do
remove
it. I have a whole inventory,
That's
a
what I'm
map.
saying, I think that might be a better system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all part of a solution.
Because they walk around and they know where a lot of stands are.
Cindy,
and
do you
stuff.
want to take this one on?
Sure.
Talk to Cindy.
You know what, I'm interested in
I
this
love
as well.
talking to Cindy.
You know,
Cindy, say, if you think that there should be legislation, you know, prohibiting the use of video cameras,
equipment, a
equipment.
variety
Tree
of equipment.
stands,
Yes.
your
All kinds
cameras,
of
you know.
equipment
Yep.
can go up, and
Well, it depends on the type of equipment, like if it's.
Well-
There's still tree
At
stands
least if
there.
it's- if it's left there, like somebody can go there and set up a telescope, we don't want to say you can't set up a spotting scope. But as long as you're present with your equipment, it's the, when you leave it there, and
Right.
that's more the issue.
exactly, yeah, installing equipment on public land.
Right.
Yeah,
You should take it out with
He's
you.
already. he's
take
done
it out when
already,
you
I
go.
Yeah.
All right,
yes, right.
talk to Cindy. So
But
you-
could Christine just clarify the town's position in terms of legally, being the manager of CPF properties? Can the town restrict it to residents only?
I gotta be honest, with you, I have not heard of them being able to restrict it in terms of residency versus non-residency. I do believe that we can restrict it in terms of, because we maintain it like our parks, in terms of hours, sunset, what you can bring onto the property, what you can't, what you can do there, what you can't, like those kinds of things. But I don't believe, I'll look into it,
Yeah.
but I don't believe we can restrict it based on only if you're a resident can you then. go
Suffolk
ahead.
County has a program where they charge, and it's pretty funny, they charge $38 to Suffolk County residents to hunt Suffolk County property, right? But they don't charge $38 to hikers, bird watchers, mountain bikers, but they charge it to the hunters, and it's still a passive sport, right?
It's a hunting license, so.
What they
you're-
do-
No, it's an
giving you
access.
Permission to take wildlife.
No, I already have that through New York State. That's my hunting license. It's Suffolk County does it as an access fee, which is crazy. So I would think that we would
You'll have to take that up with Bridget
But some of
Fleming.
those areas, correct me if I'm wrong, some of those areas do get shut down to bikers and hikers and everybody else during.
Some do, some don't. But really, I think how they justified the cost of it was they provided parking areas where they cleared the side of the road, made it, safe so that people can park.
All right, so we're going to need to move along. But
Yes.
you'll continue the conversation with Councilwoman
All
McNamara.
right, thank you all.
And maybe there'll be some legislation
day.
that comes out of it.
And reach out to Lisa Combrick at CPF.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, those are all the cards I have, but there may be other people who wanted to speak in public portion, so speak now or forever hold your peace, as they say at the weddings. Anybody? Anybody wishing to be heard in public portion on any matter? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, we're going to the agenda. There are some of you who may be here for certain resolutions, but I think the landmarks ones are very close to the front of the agenda.
The first one.
It's first one, so you'll be fine. Is anyone else looking for something to taken out of order? Is there a resolution you're waiting for, sir? Which one?
Just the Highway Law 207 one, the discontinuance of Squires Boulevard.
Okay, so maybe we,
You want to go take that out of order?
how long is that going to be?
It's at the end of the,
All right.
the agenda.
Ed and Vicky, are you okay if I take that one out of order? It should be pretty quick. All right?
Page 66. Just if you could leave your address. I believe,
All right.
oh, maybe not. Wait a minute.
Somebody give me the resolution page.
Which resolution?
46,
Page 46?
number 593.
Whose resolution is it?
It's mine.
All right, so would you like to make a motion to take it out of order?
Yes, please.
All right, so Rick is making a motion to take 593 of 2022, authorizing the discontinuance of a portion of Squires Boulevard pursuant to Highway Law 207 out of order. I will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, what do you want to do? You want to make a motion to approve?
Please.
All right, so Councilman Martell is making a motion to approve 593 of 2022, authorizing the discontinuance of a portion of Squires Boulevard pursuant to Highway Law 207. Somebody want a second?
Second?
You just made the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. So just tell me what this is. Why are we abandoning or discontinuing that portion? Kathleen, are you familiar with this?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I appreciate you taking it out of order. With us in the audience is Mr. Jack Roddy, who owns this parcel here, which is the eastern side of Squires Boulevard. The effort here is to discontinue the use, his portion, or 25 feet, the eastern side of Squires Boulevard. The western side has already been deemed a conservation buffer. The town of Southampton owns these 2 lots. In order to discontinue it under Highway Law 207, there needs to be a petition signed by the property owners. Mr. Roddy has achieved that, except for the town board's approval. So that's what this resolution is authorizing. And
Is
that
this different than a road abandonment?
A little bit. It's a different mechanism. Typical road abandonments are under Real Property Tax Law 335. This was not eligible for that because it's not a road on a signed map. It's a right-of-way. So we had to do it under Highway Law 207, and Mr. Roddy has been trying to deal with this for several years now. And once we get the town board's approval, we can send it to the highway superintendent to authorize that discontinuance. But I just want to be clear, half of the road is already discontinued because it's a conservation buffer pursuant to 2 subdivisions that the town of Southampton authorized, and the planning board deemed these open space parcels.
So who will own the roadbed?
Mr. Roddy, on his side, on the eastern side. The western side, the 25 feet on the western side is already town-owned. It will remain town-owned. The eastern side would be Mr. Roddy.
And how would he access his property?
He already has access up here off of Old Squires Road, and the adjacent property owners have signed the petition, as well as the one right below the town parcels, Brant Rayner.
And it's not needed now or in the future
Correct.
because of all the preservation that's been done?
Yes, and I did have a conversation with the highway superintendent. He was amenable to this, but again, I do have a copy of the petition if the board would like to see it, but technically, the town would have to be a signatory on that petition, and so I thought a town board resolution was the best evidence of that.
And all the parcels involved have access to various roads.
Yes.
Sign this. Okay, thank you.
So it becomes literally part of Mr. Roddy's property?
Yes.
Is there any restrictions on its use, or no?
No, and it would be like any other road abandonment that would have been done under 335.
So potentially, he may have to pay additional property tax
Yes.
based on
Yes.
increased assessment because of lot area,
Yes.
but he would have additional lot area.
Yes, I've handed out an aerial photograph. The lot outlined in red is Mr. Roddy's lot. I know Councilman Martell is familiar with this area. There will be no traffic ever traveled on this road, and there are alternate means of access for the surrounding property owners. And the Trails Committee has actually also met to approve a trail on the western side of the town-owned parcels.
Is there any conditions we're placing on this, that it remain wooded? I mean, it is Pine Barrens compatible growth area, I believe.
There's not under Highway Law 207, no. So it would just be a petition to discontinue the use of the road. It's in an EPOD, right?
We have, so this will,
Not compatible growth.
Mr. Rod, what about the properties north of Mr. Roddy's? Will they, this is Roddy's, right?
They can go
This is
forward.
This is
Roddy's.
Roddy's, oh, okay, there is no
Goes right
properties.
to
north.
There's no,
Squires.
yeah, it's a road
There is
north.
a residence south, but he comes out onto this cul-de-sac.
So is it here? Is it?
Yeah, this property,
Yeah.
and then he comes out on Old Squires.
Which is the part he's getting, is it?
He's getting this,
He's getting
the
this.
western portion. Western portion.
He's getting the eastern portion of the road.
Eastern portion, right.
By way of background, to be fair, I'll try to be brief, but by way of background, there was a subdivision that was done back in 2005. And as part of that subdivision, the town required that these two parcels be open space, be dedicated to the town. Mr. Roddy did show up at that planning board hearing, and he did ask that his portion of the road also be abandoned. And at that time, he was instructed to do it pursuant to Real Property Tax Law 335, and that's not an applicable provision here. So he's been trying to really remedy that since then.
So on this area that you gave me, so the town owns the two parcels at the north end of the road,
Correct.
and then, but this looks like there's one other property that's developed that's also on it, but that's, the road would continue to that point,
Yeah, it's actually a
Right.
flag lot from here.
right?
Yeah.
Kathleen, so there's just to the south of those two town-owned properties, there seems to be an improved parcel. That would.
Yes, that's Mr. Rayner. He has signed the petition. He has access through this cul-de-sac here. So that's where he takes his access, right up here.
So,
That's
but would
Brant.
we also be discontinuing that section too by Mr. Rayners?
No, absolutely not, no.
No,
It's
okay.
just,
Just north at that point?
correct. It's for a distance of about 9,000 square feet.
So he's okay with using that, then the road is cut off from that point north?
Correct, yes. And it's, right now, basically a trail. It's a walking trail right now.
Yeah.
So he was.
Is that what, Counselor, if I could, has the fire district been consulted? Is this a fire road?
The fire district has not been consulted. That is not a requirement under the highway law provision. There is access to Mr. Roddy's Road pursuant to Old Squires Road, and then the other parcels have access pursuant to the remainder of Squires Boulevard, the paved portions of Squires Boulevard, as you can see on that aerial. and that's pursuant to a subdivision, which absolutely was required to have fire protection and fire department input before that road was built.
Right, for the parcels and the structures.
Yes.
I'm kind of referring to the open space to get the stump jumper back there to,
Well, they could have access through Old Squires Road on the north.
okay.
So just on the clearing issue, so as this becomes part of Mr. Roddy's lot, it's subject to whatever the clearing restrictions that are on the current lot. So
Yes.
if he's only allowed to clear 35% of the lot, he has now a bigger lot.
And we did explain that to him. Jackie Fenlon and I, one of your principal planners, and I have been working with Mr. Roddy for quite a while, and we did make that clear to him, that this could result in a bigger clearing restriction, given the increase in the size of his lot.
A bigger, well, he could probably clear some addition, he might be up against the 35% that is allowed to clear under the compatible growth area,
Right.
under the Pine Barren. He's subject to our APOD.
Yes,
As well.
absolutely.
So this could be helpful, potentially. He's got a larger lot.
I think the way we figured it out, though, the addition of the land brings him to a higher,
Oh, because that crazy
Right.
chart that sometimes penalizes.
so it's
you for having
correct.
more
So he's
land.
actually going to get slightly penalized. We wanted to make that clear to him.
He doesn't care. You're okay with it?
We have a survey done of the clearing, and we were well underneath the next level of
Okay.
less clearing.
It's an odd law. At some point, we have to fix that, where sometimes smaller lots can clear more than larger lots.
Right.
There's a weird threshold. It's sort of,
Step.
it steps like this.
Actually,
Step, it should be correct.
planning is actually looking
I did a
at
whole
that.
analysis at one point, I should give them my notes. Okay, all right, thank you, I have no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining that. All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. Any additional discussion? If not, I'll call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed, abstentions? Okay. You're good.
Congratulations.
Pretty anticlimactic after all those years.
Related to Jack? Yeah. From Montauk. I thought you looked familiar. All right. Helen Roddy. All right. All right, so we're going to go now to the beginning. You're welcome to stay. You can go if you want. If you enjoy the entertainment value of our proceedings, you're welcome to.
Local government at work.
You're welcome to stay. Or you could go home and watch us on TV.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we are now at
2022.
536. That's you.
All right. Town Board Resolution 536 of 2022 is a resolution of adoption amending various provisions of Chapter 330 zoning, Article 28, landmarks and historic districts and heritage resource areas to meet certain requirements or designation as a certified local government. I do have an amendment to make in case we pass this tonight. On page 14, the date needs to change from May 10th to May 24th, 2022.
All right, so wait, so this is to pass it, that's what
It is.
this,
Yep.
that's what this resolution does.
I need
So-
to make that change.
So you want to make a motion to amend Resolution 536 to change what, John?
May, it's on page,
The second one, there's
the
two May
second-
10ths on the page.
May 10th to May 24th,
What page?
14,
14.
in the notice of adoption.
May 10th to May 14th?
Second?
All right, so seconded by, there's two,
May 24th,
there's two May 10ths.
yes, and the second one is tonight. It's supposed to be May 24th.
So the first one is May
10th.
10th,
Correct, your last
and the
town
second incidence of May 10th is May 24th.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so that's your motion, and it's seconded by
Well, it
Council.
was, now I'm totally confused, but yeah, I'll agree with
Now,
that.
I'll go
I'm
over in a
assuming it's a
second.
Scribner's error.
Yeah, it is.
All right, and it's being seconded,
It was
Okay.
tabled, you're right.
Go ahead.
being seconded by Councilman Scavone to change the first May 10th to May 14th, the second May 10th to May 24th.
Correct.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, now you want to make a motion to approve?
Well, on the motion, I just wanted to make a point very clearly, because there's been some confusion with people questioning how the law works. We're doing changes to code to allow us to do historic districts and to also allow us to be set up as a certified local government, which will help us in that. But it's not eminent domain or anything of that nature. If the houses that would maybe designate under review by the Landmarks Board would come to us for a decision. If a homeowner has an issue with that or hardship, there's hardship clause in the language as well, so that it isn't grab and seize. That's all the point I'm trying to make, because there's been some questions.
There is due process within the law.
Absolutely, and it will come to public hearing. They'll have that opportunity if they have a reason that they don't want to participate. But I should say, on the other side of that, there's a big tax benefit for people who do want to do that. There's a potential for that as well. So I will make the motion to adopt. I've discussed it with the board in the back.
So John is making a motion to approve as amended,
Same second?
seconded by Councilman Schiavone. So just on the motion, first of all, tremendous amount of work went into this. And Councilman Bouvier, thank you for working with
Thank
Mr.
the Landmarks
Wozniacki
Board
and
and
particularly
Dave
Vicky Kahn from the Landmarks Board, who really shepherded this, who took this issue on and was familiar with, I believe Southampton Village has this authority. And I think some of the other villages have
Many
it.
incorporated villages have that.
Right, so
We're
the
used to it.
villages can say, no, that's a landmark, and, recognizing how important it is. Yeah, it does allow us to landmark buildings, even if the property owner doesn't want it landmarked. I don't know how, when and if we would use that power, but I would think that it would be, we'd use it quite, sparingly and judiciously.
The actual inventory is quite small to look from. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. And out of that portion, it's a small number, under 1,000.
But when
They're very, very careful at what you're going to look at and how you're going to do that, but it's a big tool for us to establish historic districts, and that's
So,
to me, that's
this is the
goal.
town of Southampton. I got the seal behind me, 1640. We were established, making us, I guess, the oldest settlement or English settlement, what is it?
Oldest English settlement in the state of New York.
Oldest English settlement in the state of New York. It's sort of surprising that,
Before there was.
it's sort of surprising that we don't have this authority, So thank you for bringing it to our attention. I'm going to support this because I think a lot of the reason why people chose this as their home, well, some because they're 10th, 11th, 12th generation from this community, but I think a lot of people are drawn here because of the historic nature, the buildings that have remained. And this is, I think, a really important tool if we're going to celebrate our past, to be able to designate areas as historic districts, like Bridgehampton, downtown, where I think people are concerned that without such a designation, we will lose that sense of place. Those old hamlet settlement areas, most of them are protected. Southampton Village, Sag Harbor Village, East Hampton Village, Quogue Village, but not Bridgehampton. It's like the anomaly. And I think this is one of the reasons, is because we haven't had the ability as a board to say, we believe that there is an integrity in this area that needs to be protected, a historic integrity. So I just wanted to say thank you, because I know you spent an awful lot of time, Vicki, to get to this point, and Ed too, and Julie Green, and everybody who's been involved here.
Dave Wilcox.
Dave Wilcox, our planning director. It's time. It's time to do this. I think this is moving into the future, better protecting our past, so.
We thank
important.
the entire board, our council, for your support.
Well, you guys, I've told you this when I first walked in the room, I can't think of another committee that works as hard and is so diligent. I mean, I'm flooded with your information, and you do so much to detail that. And this is a good step to preserving a lot of the work that you've done in the past and work that you're going to be doing in the future, because now you got a lot to work with, so thank you.
I had I spoke to John about it. I had a question on it, and I was, questioning about the notification of people that would be included in a district or having their home landmarked, and I just wanted to be assured, and I was, that there would be a public hearing and due process, and all of that would take place with every property owner included in that district, or every home that we want to landmark. They would have the opportunity to come before this board and speak. It wouldn't just be us unilaterally, designating a whole district and saying this is what it is.
Yeah,
They-
no eminent domain.
They will have the opportunity to weigh in and.
Yeah, and research has to be done. There's a lot of
There's a
things
lot
that
to
have
go
to happen prior to that affirmative decision to landmark a building.
The public hearing process was important to me, and that's
Yeah.
there, so.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with you. I think it's important to all of us that, if there is, and there is as I said, there's a hardship clause there. If there's an issue where a homeowner, either doesn't want or has to provide a good reason, it goes through the Landmarks Board, a recommendation is made to us, and then ultimately the decision rests with the board. And I think that's a good process, but it's also, there's a lot of diligence behind those applications before they ever get to us with this Landmarks Board, which I think is incredible. I'm a little biased, but I think you guys are great, so.
A question, it's not going to change my vote, and I don't know, Ed, if who could possibly answer this, but we have purchased facade easements in certain cases, historic types of easements on properties, and we value those, we get appraisers to value them, and the property owner voluntarily has to landmark it. If the town landmarks it, and now they can't change the exterior, so giving up the right to change the exterior now, we shouldn't have to pay as much for it technically, because it's landmarked. It could impact that. I don't know. It'll potentially save the town money, but it might not provide the homeowner with as much revenue to pay the cost of maintaining that historic building. Is this something you've thought about at all, or?
Being landmarked, wouldn't they be?
Tell me if I'm wrong, Ed, but come on up. But the one thing that I like about this is that it exposes these properties to the Federal Registry and other sources of grants and money to help maintain or make those changes to buildings, should you guys make that
But in
recommendation.
terms of the CPF fund being used to acquire facade easements, does this affect the value?
I don't think it does, but I can't speak with authority on that. And just to make the distinction between the two items, Councilman Bouvier mentioned the maintenance award, which comes from a separate fund that is not a CPF financed fund. The easements are purchased by the CPF on protected properties. That means landmarked or what would be contributing resources in a historic district. That's one possibility from my understanding of the code and the way things work currently. It's one possibility that can be entertained by a property owner whose property has been considered contributing in a historic district or is landmarked by action of the town board. There are other aspects I haven't explored in terms of the time taken for research, but there are towns on Long Island that have considered a reduction in the assessed valuation on properties that are landmarked or fall under the regulatory authority of a landmarks commission or a landmarks board. That's something that maybe can be explored down the road, but that's about the limit of what I can comment on.
Somebody had approached me in the village in the historic district, and with a contributing property, and they asked me about a facade type of easement, and I said I didn't think that they were eligible because they had to maintain that facade, so it really wouldn't appraise, we're paying, I can't really pay you to not do something that you can't already do as it is. But, maybe we could talk to some of them in Thiel so that there could be a component of a grant for maintaining landmark buildings or something like that.
Federal grants, aren't there?
Yeah, but
There's-
maybe
From
a
the Federal
portion.
Registry, there are.
What I'm saying is maybe a portion of CPF.
CPF may be allowed to do that.
Could be applicable to something like that, to say, okay, we'll give you a grant, just like the water quality grant, a historic preservation grant, to maintain that building if it's a landmark structure.
Yeah, because to me, that's the essence of CPF, community preservation.
Because a
If
facade
we can
easement,
do that, I think that would be a good thing.
This allows us to apply for grants from the New York State
Exactly.
Parks,
Yep.
which is very exciting, I think. And why I'm
Yeah,
supporting
I
this.
don't think that their grants are humongous in character.
Right,
But,
right.
yeah, but,
but typically, maybe it's a confusing subject, but we have purchased facade easements, and the person voluntarily landmarks the building, but they're basically giving up the right to build some modern house, or to, in the future, to ever change that front face of the house. And when it gets appraised, that devalues the property by a certain amount that, we are paying that differential. It turns out, historically, it hasn't actually really devalued any properties. If anything, it's made them more
No,
valuable.
I don't think any property in the town of Southampton has been devalued in
Right.
the last 20 years.
But it is this notion that they're giving up some right, and we are purchasing the right to do something different there, that has sometimes been 10, even 20% of the value of the home. So if now we have the right to just simply landmark it, it could affect that. And so maybe I will talk to someone in Thiel about whether there's a way to offset that by creating a grant program within CPF for that, doing sort of the same thing that would have been done had we not had this ability to landmark it ourselves.
Yeah, I think he's aware of that. I think that's been discussed, but,
Yeah,
and
it's not going to stop me from supporting it, because I think we're still going to be pretty judicious in terms of when we put a landmark status on something where the person is objecting to that. I think that's going to be quite rare.
yeah.
So, all right, any other
Thanks, Ed.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Congratulations.
I tried to get it earlier today, I mean.
No, and thank
Thanks,
you,
guys.
thank you for your patience this evening. I knew you weren't going anywhere, so you were gonna stick it out. All right, so.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, and that was a motion to approve as amended, so, all right, so we're gonna move on to 561, I'm on page 14, co-sponsored by Councilman Schiavone, authorizing the supervisor, and some reason the word authorize is missing a few letters there. Authorize the supervisor to sign amended contract with Flanders Ambulance to allocate funding. Is there a second?
This is their parking lot. This
Yeah.
is a drainage issue. It's,
So
there's
I'll
a bit
take
of a
that as-
sinkhole, and it's
Yes.
damaging the ambulance.
Exactly, so I'll take that as a second by Councilman Schiavone, and yes, it's we're applying some COVID money that we are willing to get, we were given to help them repair the parking lot at the ambulance barn in Flanders. Yeah, by the drainage structure, it's been collapsing, and they're concerned
Blocking
about it.
the axles.
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 562 of 2022, authorized purchase of Hyundai excavator from Wall Island Equipment Corp. using the Sourcewell contract.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 563 of 2022, authorized purchase of sweeper parts and service from Lacal Equipment Incorporated, Long Island Sanitation Equipment Company, and Trias Incorporated, using the Town of Huntington contract.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 564 of 2022 authorizes supervisor to execute a management and stewardship agreement with the Wildwood Bowling 16 Incorporated for the property located at 3939 Lake Avenue, Northampton.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. Is that
This has
going
been, we've
well?
had this for, yeah, it's going very well. It's very
It's
successful.
working, no
Yep.
issues?
Virtually
They pick
none.
up the garbage?
We just had one issue with parking, but we got that solved. And it's been great. They've been a great partner to work with.
And that's the bowling alley there,
Yeah,
right?
it's
A
right
little
on
tough
Wildwood.
during COVID because of the numbers, but it's all back.
Yep,
Is the bowling alleys operating as a bowling alley too?
Yep.
it is.
Well, but
Sounds like Cindy was just there.
during the day, I guess bowling is mostly in the evenings. I don't know, people do it during the day too, but, so I'm sure it works well. Okay, so motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 565 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, is to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with LaGuardia Design Group for landscape design services for 15 and 17 Old Country Road in Watermill.
Second.
Seconded, just on the motion, this company happens to have their office in Watermill. I've reviewed their work. They are highly skilled designers. They do incredible work, this LaGuardia Design Group. And this is the Burden property that we're talking about. So they're gonna help do a park design concept. And as you know, the Landmarks Group have said that the one building should stay, so I'm sure they'll be able to work around that.
Great.
So it's possible it might have to move it on the property somewhere, but I think it should be okay where it is. But Chris LaGuardia and the team they're very, very good. So I'm looking forward to working with them. So we have motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 566 of 2022, authorized supervisor to sign contract extension for cold patch pavement repair material with Black Gold Industries LLC.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 567 of 2022, authorized supervisor to sign contract with Ryan D'Amico for sound system at Good Ground Park.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. I think it's a temporary, this is covering sound at events. It's not a permanently installed sound system. It's
Right. Comes and
it's
goes
for-
every concert.
It's for the concerts. All right, so we had a motion and a second by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 568 of 2022, authorized the supervisor to sign 2022 extension with Oliver Packaging and Equipment Company as sole source provider of complete system packaging trays for senior services.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 569 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, is to authorize the supervisor to execute a consulting services agreement with Laura Smith to provide,
You need to
I'm
ta-
sorry, I'm going to
You
withdraw
need,
this.
you need to just
I'll
table it?
or
Well, No,
withdraw
table it, because I think we may be amending it. Why don't you
Okay.
table it for
So
now?
I'll table it.
Table to
Until
the next meeting?
Next meeting, thank you.
Table to the next, all right, so there's some confusion about the scope of services. So Councilman Bouvier is making a motion to table. I will second. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's
Yeah,
tabled.
thank you for reminding me.
No problem. All right, 570 of 2022, authorize supervisor to sign a grant application for an advanced assistant project to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for the elevation of Dune Road.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. This is that section of Dune Road, I think, from Ponquag to the inlet, to try to get some funding for that. All right, so it's a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Hopefully, we're successful. With that, 571 of 2022, authorize the supervisor to sign a grant application to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for Hampton Bays Emergency Operations Generator.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 572 of 2022, authorizing the Parks Director to enter into interim agreements for mobile concessions pursuant to Town Code Chapter 111-7B2 for the 2022 summer and fall seasons at Hot Dog Beach and Red Creek Park.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. You know, my only comment here is, I'm just surprised at how little
Yeah.
we are getting for the right to have a concession at a busy park for the entire season. I just don't know that we're getting enough of these vendors, maybe they're not aware of it, but to pay $250 to be at Hot Dog Beach for the whole summer,
Well, they
Selling
they
ice
do
cream
really
is
well, too.
good for
You
them.
know.
Good, that's great. And
But I hear
I'm
you.
glad
We'll
we
take that up with
glad we
Kristen.
have them, but I just don't know that we're doing enough outreach, but maybe the clerk might know more about that.
It's a tough area down there, though, too, I have to say, from going down there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mosquitoes quite often, and it's, you
Yeah.
know, and they have to have a truck, and they have to sit there, and I
Yeah.
think there's requirements that even if there's weather, they still need to be there. I'm not sure how that works these days, but it's not, you know, it's a little bit different setup down there.
And they are providing a good service, I mean, the fact
They
is,
are.
you know.
And it's difficult to find people. These days, I've been working with Kristen, and sometimes these things go out to bid more than once because they're finding it's not as lucrative as it used to be, and things are quite expensive now as well.
Do they
So, I mean,
they
the
pay
last,
for their own electricity?
Well, yes, because they
They
have
gener-
the
yeah.
generator in
They
their
don't
trucks,
hold it.
because there's
Oh,
nothing
they
down
don't tie
there.
into our
But the
power.
last man was so popular that he set up shop on Main Street in the Village of West Hampton Beach, and he's doing great. So he had a following, and he took it
Oh,
to
good. All right, so did we vote on that one?
Nope.
All right, we had a motion in a second, though. I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 573 of 2022, the 2022 notice to bidders for hot asphalt hauler.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. All right, 574 of 2022, 2021 fund balance allocation for capital borrowing as it relates to debt reduction policy.
Second.
It's seconded by Councilman Bouvier. The title is not artful. It has more in this resolution than the title implies. So we do have a debt reduction policy. We have agreed that if we have unanticipated surplus, 75% of it will go toward paying for things that we otherwise would have borrowed at the next bonding. And that is the case here with highway. That is what we're doing. And we're also encumbering money from some of the other departments for we don't have anything we're borrowing for right now, so we're just sort of setting the money aside from land management and
Police and others.
water district and some others. But the police money is part of this, except for the last item there. The uniforms are being paid for with general surplus, not from unanticipated surplus. I just wanted to make that distinction. That debt reduction policy does not allow us to pay for things that we wouldn't be bonding for, such as uniforms. So the captain has made us aware that they need more money in their uniform budget line, and we're pulling from regular unallocated surplus. Just, I know it's highly technical, but I just want to make you guys aware, because the title makes it look like it's all part of the debt reduction policy, and that one line is not part of that. All right? So did we get a second?
Yes.
Seconded by
John.
Councilman Bouvier. And it's quite a bit, there's $1.8 million that's being applied, so it's quite a bit in terms of being used to offset future borrowing or current borrowing. So that's significant. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Okay, moving on to 575, allocation of ARPA's coronavirus federal grant for Flanders Ambulance parking lot repair.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. We just mentioned this about this is just the other step in it, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 576 of 2022, amend the 2022 adopted budget for the animal shelter.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 577 of 2022 amends the 2022 adopted budget for Highway Department to include Pave Our Potholes Program, POP funding.
Second.
POP is what you don't want to happen to your tire. So this is paving our potholes program. So it was seconded by, was that Councilman Martell?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. I don't know why that wasn't your resolution.
I don't know.
Five-
I owed you one.
Yeah, you did. All right, you want the next one, 578,
Yep, all yours.
2022? Co-sponsored with Councilman Martell, is authorized highway fund pay-as-you-go for excavator.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 579 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, amends the 22 to 26 capital budget for marina improvements.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 580 of 22, accepts resignation of Tom Florio from the Conservation Board.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Just on the motion, Tom's been a great member. He's just really busy with work and doesn't feel like he could put in the time. But he really has enjoyed being part of the Conservation Board. He's a really impressive person, Tom Florio, and I just want, publicly really thank him and appreciate bringing his skill set to Conservation Board. I'm somewhat reluctant in accepting his resignation, but I understand that, people's careers, have to come first in most instances. So I'm glad he's super busy with work, but we'll miss him on the Conservation Board, so. All right, we had a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 581 of 2022 appoints Kevin Beatty to the North Sea Beach Colony Beach Erosion Control District Advisory Committee.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 582 of 22 reappoints Father Constantine Lazarakis to the Ethics Board.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. Happy to have Father Lazarakis there. Everybody knows Father Alex. This is his son-in-law. Great guy, super community-minded, and, excellent, I think an excellent appointment to this board, reappointment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Might have to bring the oath book to him.
Approved. Was that?
I might need to go visit the church and bring the oath book there.
Yeah.
Yes. 583 of 2022 authorizes the settlement of the litigation matter Christine Capizzola versus Town of Southampton, Southampton Town Police Department, East Quogue Union Free School District, Lisa Costa and Robert, that's a different person, Robert Long. He's the superintendent over there. Who wants the second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 584 of 22, authorize the town attorney to reimburse NYMER for the deductible paid for a property damage claim.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right, 585 of 22 retains the law firm of Coughlin and Gerhardt LLP to provide legal services regarding personnel matters relating to the Southampton Town Police Department.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 586 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, a resolution of adoption prohibiting parking on County Road 80, Montauk Highway, East Quogue. This was the subject of the public hearing number 3 earlier.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Wait, was that the right one?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was the right, that was for
Yes,
the third
For the
public
third
hearing?
public hearing.
Okay. All right, thank you. 587 of 22, resolution adoption amending Town Code, Chapter 50, Open Government, to allow members of public bodies of the town to participate in meetings via video conferencing.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. This is a pretty important resolution. We had the public hearing earlier today. I think it's gonna take a while to get all of our systems worked out and get everything running smoothly. I'm a little nervous because, a controversial hearing, we could be inundated with people from other areas. But I do think the spirit of this law is correct. And we ought to adopt it so that we can enhance participation.
On the flip side of that, we can also, on public hearings and matters, get people to weigh in from outside of the town that have expertise but couldn't otherwise participate.
That is true as well. Yeah, at a public hearing, expert testimony, absolutely.
I think a lot of advantages. I'm all for that.
And I don't see I'll speak for myself, I don't see myself taking advantage of this because it's not very advantageous to be on Zoom when everybody else in person.
No.
It's hard to, you
Much
saw
rather.
it.
It's
It's
very
hard to
difficult.
participate. It's not something you want to do, but it's nice to know that it's there if, God forbid, you needed to use it.
Yes.
No, I'm not gonna lie, I do have some apprehension to doing this, but I do think on the whole, it's the right thing. If it turns out to be problematic, we can rescind the resolution. We could go back to, the way things were. But I think we're a big town geographically. Traffic has become unbearable. Our town hall is located east of the canal, and most of our population is west of the canal. And I think it's good government to do this, to make it easier for people to participate. So it's a lot cheaper than relocating town hall. So we do have a population center is west of the canal. So I think if this could foster more participation in government. I hope I don't live to regret that statement, but I can't see how it could be a bad thing overall. So I'm definitely going to support it. All right, anybody else on it? All right, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I approve. There's another piece to this, too. The next one.
588.
588. Did anybody else want to co-sponsor that by chance, or we're good on 587?
Sure.
Yeah, I would.
I would too.
That put me on there, too.
Well,
Anybody else?
all right, so that's,
We all support
Sunday,
open
put everybody down as
Absolutely.
co-sponsoring on the hybrid meetings. All right, the 588, and thank you, Kathleen, for working on that. 588 of 2022, video conferencing procedures.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. Any discussion on this?
Well, I'm sure this will be included in our other discussions going forward. but-
Yeah. Okay, so I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second on that?
The second was Councilman Bouvier.
Thank you.
No?
No.
Oh, Councilwoman
That was
McNamara?
second.
Yeah.
Okay, right, sorry, Councilwoman McNamara seconded. Imagine how hard it's going to be to keep track of it when somebody's online, not sitting here. But who was that second?
You have to get the labels proper, that's one of the things.
You know, because we potentially could have a meeting with three of us here, and then I got a council person here and a council person there, and figuring out who seconded it,
And I have my eyes going in two different directions.
and then delays in,
You could just sit and
speed.
watch it on CTV.
So I know I seconded it, but
I see the
Came through late.
positive in it, that it exposes government to a lot more people, and I think that's good.
yeah, we'll find out pretty quick if this is a good thing or a bad thing. But I'm willing to forge ahead. So we voted on the procedures, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Is unanimous? Okay. 589 of 2022 accepts offer of dedication of roadways for subdivision map, the Woods at Hampton Bays.
Second.
Seconded.
On the motion, I just think it's somewhat ironic that we had some folks come here tonight about private roads, and this step that we're taking here is a step that did not happen in many subdivisions or portions of subdivisions back in the 1950s or 60s, whenever those subdivisions happened. And so now we have these private roads that are not in our system because whether the contractor or the owners, they didn't want to do it at the time. Now we're faced with these problems with some of our private roads throughout the town. So second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. Kathleen, does the highway superintendent still have to accept the road, or is this accepts it?
As part of the subdivision approval, it's already accepted. The highway superintendent has already been a referral as part of that process and weighed in together with the town engineer. So there'll be a deed, and the town will accept that deed, accepting the roads into the highway system
Okay.
prior to the signing of the map.
Okay, thank you. All right, did we vote?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 590 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, is a reimbursement waiver for the East Quogue Village Green Summer Concert Series to be held Tuesday nights from June 28th to June 26th, July 26th, 2022, with rain dates of August 2nd and 9th, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 591 of 2022, also co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, is an authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the Hampton Bays High School class of 2022 commencement parade held on June 21st, 2022, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 592 of 22, authorized Community Preservation Fund tax refund pursuant to the first-time home buyer's exemption for Sharon P. Rudder.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. All right, the next one we did out of order, so we're on 47, page 47, 594 of 2022, accepts performance bond in connection with the subdivision map, Windy Hill Farm. Sounds lovely.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 595 of 2022, accepting a performance bond in connection with subdivision map, the Woods at Hampton Bays.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 596 of 2022, accepts resignation of Ada Davila, Senior Police Operations Aide in the Police Department.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 597 of 2022, accepts retirement of Eric Plum, police officer.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Best wishes to Eric.
He's being missed by a lot of school kids.
Oh, yeah?
He's great.
He's the SRO
Well,
for
that's-
East Quogue
that's-
and Remsenburg. And
Wow, that's good to know, so. So we wish him the very best in his retirement and thank him for his service. 598 of 2022 accepts retirement of Joan Andrews, Associate Administrator in Police Department.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and best wishes to Joan in her retirement. 599 of 2022 accepts retirement of Stella Michaels, Secretarial Assistant in Water District. Wow.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Stella has been there for a while. She's highly regarded. Everybody knows her. It's who you bring your payment to. She greets you courteously and professionally and warmly as you enter the Hampton Bays Water District, and she will be sorely missed. I'm not sure, how they'll function without her, but, they've big shoes to fill. So thank you, Stella, for all of your service to the Water District. All right, we voted, so we'll move on to 600 of 2022. Appoints James Moran to Maintenance Mechanic 2 position in the Water District.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations to James. 601 of 2022 appoints Eliza Morgan to Administrative Assistant position in Human Resources.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved, and congratulations to Eliza. 602 of 2022 appoints John Duval, Senior Assessment Assistant in Assessor's Office.
Joan.
I'm sorry?
Joan.
Thank you, Joan.
Joan, yes.
Joan Duval.
Second.
Senior Assistant Senior Assessment Assistant in Assessor's Office. Somebody else try that one. That was hard enough, I messed the name up. Appoints Joan Duval to Senior Assessment Assistant in Assessor's Office. That's a tongue twister.
Congratulations.
All right, she sells seashells by the sea. All right, who was the second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Sean, which one are you here for? Oh, we,
Smoking. Smoking.
almost there?
Yeah.
You can hang in there, and Kathleen,
I thought you were.
I want to let you guys
sorry.
go home.
Yeah.
Let's get going.
You're in it for the long haul.
Well, let's get going.
All right.
Let's keep it moving.
All right, 603 of 2022 appoints Kaina Elizer to Real Property Recorder 1 in Assessor's Office.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations. 604 of 22 appoints Lindsay Smith to Office Assistant in Justice Court.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations. 605 of 22 appoints Rachel Longobardi to Senior Office Assistant in Land Management.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman
And
Bouvier.
thank you, guys. We really need
Seconded,
someone in land management. I seconded.
seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Were you saying something on the motion?
Yes, it's been difficult, so it's nice to have staff down there.
Years.
Worked in many different areas
Yep.
cumulatively.
So, all right, so we motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved, and congratulations to Rachel. 606 of 22 appoints Tricia Martinez to Office Assistant, Spanish-speaking position in Public Safety.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Congratulations to Tricia. 607 of 22, Annual Cyber Security Conference in Albany for Information Systems Personnel.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. I'm just seeing a question mark where I should see a hyphen. It's Scribner's is not an issue. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution Town Board Resolution 608 of 2022, authorize Fire Marshal 1 Liam Keating to attend the New York State Fire Academy training, quote, Introduction to Fire Investigation, quote, May 23rd, May 27th, 2022, and June 6th to June 17th in Montour Falls, New York.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 609 of 2022, authorizing the suspension of a police officer.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. We're up to 610 of 2022, which I will need to amend based on the resolution we passed earlier about hybrid meetings. This is co-sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and Councilman McNamara. And there's a series of these that anything basically that is listing public hearings or meetings, we're going to have to add this language to. So I'm not going to repeat it. I'm only going to do this once. And the clerk already has the language. But basically what we're doing here is after the date, in this case, you'll see the date in bold, Tuesday, June 14th, 2022 at 1 p.m. We're going to add the words both in person at Southampton Town Hall, so adding both in person, and then after the comma following Southampton, comma, New York, comma, it says, and via video conferencing, comma, then continues to hear any and all persons. And let me see, is that it, or is it in another amendment section? Oh, yeah, there's another, we're gonna cross out the notice of public hearing. How is that? How do we cross?
You just have to add it in both places.
And I do have some comments about one
What is this?
particular piece.
How can you cross out the notice of public hearing? I have it crossed out.
No, it shouldn't be crossed
So what's the other amendment to this? Does anybody know? Because I have it as no notice of public hearing. There is a notice of public hearing. I think that it's just the same language.
out. Yes, it is.
Gets inserted. So after 1 p.m., it says both in person, and then again, after Southampton, New York, it would say, and via video conferencing, right? And the rest is the same?
And there's a couple of paragraphs inserted as it relates to accessing it via video conferencing, and the town clerk has that language. I've worked on it together with their office and Janice Wilson.
And I do have
Do
some
you-
comments specifically.
Go ahead, now's the time. 'cause-
Okay. So I am the state-appointed records management officer for the town of Southampton. And many years ago, we designated the town clerk's meeting portal as the town's official records repository for videos, agendas, minutes. It's comprehensive. It's a one-stop shop. It was intended to improve public access and open government transparency for our constituents so that they know where to go, they're familiar with how to research resolutions and everything that's contained in it. And that is the town's officials' records repository, not YouTube. And I take exception with adding via YouTube into instructing our constituents where to watch the videos of this town board. And I really want that.
Yeah, YouTube is like
I
extra.
agree.
It's like,
But it's
But it's
not
also
something we control. It's not something that we can get our stuff back out of.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
and it's morphed into being used
It's an
sometimes,
unofficial,
Oh, yeah.
I don't mind it being used supplementally.
but not as a directive to our constituents that that's the
Yeah.
location they should go to watch.
All right, so
whatever.
where is that?
It's just, it says right after the town clerk's portal via YouTube. And that just is the only section that I ask that you remove respectfully.
All
You
right, so-
know, if you determine you use it for something
Yeah, so
supplemental.
we're gonna take
or other
out
than
via
that,
YouTube.
not for-
Yeah.
All right, so, and then there's some language that Kathleen, you said you guys worked out. Can I see that before?
Oh, I think Kim,
And,
I don't see anything different here than what we just discussed.
correct.
I have that this has the via YouTube crossed out. It has the both in-person and via video conferencing. So, yeah, that's no different than what we discussed. All right, so once again, we're on 6:10, and I'm making a motion to amend the resolution
second.
as, so I don't need to say it again, right? All right, seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved, okay. Now I will make a motion, this is a notice of public hearing enactment of Town Code Chapter 90 entitled Smoking Prohibited in Designated Non-Smoking Areas. This would be a hearing on June 14th of 2022 at 1 PM. If somebody will I will explain this. This is co-sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and Councilwoman McNamara. If somebody would second, I will gladly explain.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. And I'm just going to say one or two words and then kicking it to you, Sean.
Sounds good.
So, as you know, New York State has legalized recreational marijuana use. It's treated just like smoking a cigarette. So anywhere you can smoke a cigarette, you can smoke a marijuana cigarette, known by other names to most people. But you can do that, and that means there's an awful lot of places that people can engage in smoking marijuana, anywhere where cigarettes are allowed. So this is an effort to restrict that. To do that, we can't just simply restrict marijuana use, we have to restrict cigarette use as well. So with that, Sean, you can explain the law.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I've worked in conjunction with Councilman Droulos at Parks and Rec to draft this law and basically be permissive in the least restrictive way possible. So other jurisdictions have already done this. New York City is one of them. We have prohibited smoking in designated non-smoking areas. The intent of this is not for a SWAT team to come out and, take away a cigar smoker or something. This is beach areas, sporting facilities. This is places families are going with their children. You're, trying to relax and someone is smoking a cigarette or other device in your face. We've included vapes. We've included basically any kind of smoking device. We're allowed to legislate this. Marijuana specifically, if we target it, the New York State Penal Law, Section 22210, states we can have a maximum fine of $25 and 24 hours community service. When we more broadly regulate smoking, we're not bound by those conditions. We don't really care what you're smoking. We care about the act of smoking. It's limited to specific locations. Like I said, these are areas frequented by families, that type of setting. Our penalty section actually mirrors partially the marijuana section quite well. We've taken jail as a possibility off the table. We have a maximum fine of $250, a $100 blight mitigation surcharge, and up to 24 hours community service. So a local judge could say, hey, Mr. Smoker, who violated the town code section, please go and do a beach cleanup. Please go and do some community service. And that would be an ability we'd give our justice court judges. Like I said, other jurisdictions have done this, New York City in particular. Are there any questions on it?
So, yeah, just in terms of how this was arrived at, so we didn't say you couldn't smoke a cigarette anywhere on any of the beaches. We said, well, lifeguarded areas, right?
Correct.
This is basically a common sense. If you have a shared patio, or places, there's some parks that are named specifically the entire park, like the North Sea athletic facility, or Red Creek Park, Good Ground Park. It's just simpler to just say you cannot smoke a cigarette or any other device, any other product, anywhere in this park. So there's a whole bunch that are named specifically. It doesn't mean if you're, on a piece of CPF, I'm not saying you should smoke a cigarette, deep in the woods, you end up starting a forest fire. But
Wild.
this basically is, I didn't want to be too overly restrictive. It is a public hearing, so we can hear public testimony, and people have the right to smoke cigarettes. I think it's an awful habit, but people do it. I tried to find some middle ground and tried to say, look, if you're hanging out with your family at Good Ground Park, you shouldn't be breathing somebody else's cigarette smoke or marijuana smoke. Same thing on the beach, in concentrated, where people congregate, this makes sense. But, and I appreciate people co-sponsoring this. I think it's an important piece of legislation, whether it's marijuana or regular cigarettes. I think it's good legislation, good law. And thank you, Sean, for working on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's the areas that most people, if you were a smoker, would go, if you were not a smoker and there was someone smoking, that non-smoking person would say something, having seen that over and over again. So I think it's broad enough and enforceable enough to work.
Places where you already assume you couldn't smoke.
Yeah, right.
Makes sense.
Right, and there's also a provision in here where, although we've named a bunch of parks, Sean came up with a clever provision, basically, that if we put up a sign that says no smoking area, anywhere we have a sign that says no smoking, it's a certain distance from that sign.
Right, and it might be a little more complicated to enforce, but it is to discourage that activity. So areas that we didn't account for, where, say outside the animal shelter, even though it's inside the park, it's in the grounds of the shelter, you might want to post a sign there, an example like that. So it's common
We
sense,
don't have to come
really.
back to the town board to amend the law to put up a sign that says no smoking area? Is
The
that-
way we structured this, it was intended that the Director of Parks and Rec, Kristen Doulos, could post these signs up in park areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most people comply.
Most people do comply with this.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I'd like to be added also.
So, all right, so Sunday, would you put everybody down as co-sponsors on this?
Absolutely.
And, all right, so we had a motion and a second.
Smoking, good job, John.
All right, we had a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Moving on to 6:11, so that was a motion to approve as amended, okay? So 6:11 of 2022. It's a notice of public hearing on the acquisition of land of John Leonard and amends the CPF management and stewardship plan to include that property. This has to be amended the same way we did the last time, so I'll make a motion to amend accordingly.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and I'll make a motion, this is same day, June 14th, 1 o'clock, right here, or wherever you are. If you're the public, you can zoom in. So, motion to approve as amended, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. All right. 6:12 is a notice of public hearing on the acquisition of lands of Sag Harbor Antique Fire Trucks, Inc., amends the CPF management and stewardship plan to include that property. It's the same date, June 14th. I'll make a motion to amend
Second.
accordingly. Seconded by, who was the second? Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Now I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Same second.
Same second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
approved. 6:13 of 2022, this is notice of public hearing on the acquisition of lands of William Carl and amend the CPF management stewardship plan to include property. I'll make a motion to amend in the same way as the others.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 614 of 22, this is a notice of public hearing to consider the acquisition of the property located at 240 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays, New York. I'll make a motion to amend to include that language as the same as the others.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved as amended. 615 is yours, actually.
615 of 2022, notice of public hearing to amend the designation of certain property on Old Country Road, Remsenburg, Spionk, in the CPF project plan and its CPF stewardship and management plan. I need to make a motion to amend.
Second.
The same way.
Same way, yep.
Everything, and does this also have that language about YouTube? I'm not seeing that, but
No,
It's in the now therefore.
this one didn't have the YouTube language, but I guess if we make a motion to strike it and it doesn't exist, it shouldn't be a problem. All right, so we had a motion to amend, and who's the second?
I was.
Councilman Blumer.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved, and a motion to approve as amended, right?
Yep.
Rick?
Yes.
Please.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. All right, 616 of 2022, co-sponsored by the rest of you. It needs to also be
That on a card.
amended in the same way.
Second?
Boy, hold on. Oh, there's more, there's a, don't jump in here yet. So this is there's one other, that's really relatively simple, under section 7. Section 7, where it says shall local law number blank of 2020 entitled, it's just shall a local law entitled, a local law amending chapter 140 of the Southampton Town Code in relation to creating a community housing fund to be funded by a 0.5% supplemental real estate transfer tax be approved.
Where are you location?
Section 7, page
ballot proposition.
74.
Section 7.
74.
Got it.
Should B be capitalized like that? Is that a technical reason why B is capitalized?
Because it's,
Why, what is capitalized?
In the ballot proposition language.
No, you can
So
probably.
that should be a small b.
Yeah.
I'm being picky because it's actually going to be what appears on the ballot. Okay, so this is really an important resolution, that's why everybody's on it. So let's get it in front of us so we can talk about it. So you guys all understand the motion to amend, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll make the motion to amend. Who's seconding the motion to
Second.
amend? Second by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Let me just read that. Notice of public hearing to consider amending Chapter 140 Community Preservation Fund in relation to creating a community housing fund to be funded by a 0.5% supplemental real estate transfer tax.
Second.
Who is seconding? Councilman Scavone is seconding. So, we discussed this as a board quite a bit. This will enable, will be a public hearing, and the public hearing then would allow us to put onto the ballot in November a change to the CPF surcharge that would create a housing fund. Kathleen, did you want to say anything about this, or no? I didn't work on it. Oh, you didn't work on this, okay. So This would be on June 14th, so we'd be able to entertain public comment, and then there'd be obviously a separate authorizing resolution. Should we approve it, that would place it on the ballot for the ultimate decision being made by the public. And this is something that Assemblyman Thiel was able to get through for a second time through Albany. This time, the governor signed it. And I believe a couple other towns are taking advantage of this, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I think East Hampton and Shelter Island.
Shelter
East
Island.
Hampton.
Shelter Island did a really good job.
I'm just not sure about Southold or Riverhead yet.
Southold's looking like they're going to do it.
Yeah?
That's good.
Riverhead, not so much, but.
So, but this is just a public hearing, we're not debating the bill.
Right.
It's just allowing the public to weigh in. But I think it's a really important initiative, so, anybody else before we vote?
I agree with you. I think it's really actually critical for our affordable housing needs. And, we're working with advocates from within our own committees, everyone else around. It's really, I can't stress how important it is. I'm kind of sorry it's 3 hours into a meeting that, but we really need to work on the outreach and get people to understand what it is for November.
We'll have multiple public hearings on this, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
Yep.
gonna have-
We're going to have a lot.
We're also walking on a resolution to have a public hearing on the same days as this public hearing for our update for our comprehensive the town's comprehensive housing plan, or the housing portion of the comprehensive plan. It's late, excuse me. And so it seemed germane to have those discussions at the same time, because that's what people are going to be weighing in on.
Okay. There's a lot to it. There's some changes to CPF as well, in terms of the thresholds that are involved with this, but it does allow quite a bit of flexibility to the town to apply these funds in a way to try to address the crisis and with the lack of affordable housing, so. All right, so there's a motion to approve as amended and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Okay. 617, this is a notice of public hearing, accept a grant of open space in connection with the subdivision known as the Woods at Hampton Bays. This has the same changes that need to be made related to the public hearing on June 14th, so I'll make a motion to amend.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. I'll make a motion now to approve as amended.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. John, your turn.
Page 76. Resolution 618 of 2022 is a notice of public hearing to accept a TDR deed of residual fee from Spinney Road LLC for property to be maintained as open space located at 57 Spinney Road, East Guac, Suffolk County Tax Map as indicated on the resolution pursuant to Southampton Town Code Chapter 244-4, obtaining a development right certificate, and Chapter 247, General Municipal Law of the State of New York.
All right, so that was a motion to amend, to add the language as the others.
Correct.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved, and now you're going to make a motion to
Motion to
approve.
approve.
And I won't make you read it again.
Thank you.
Motion to approve as amended,
Same second?
same second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Okay.
We're going to have a busy night on June 14th. Yeah.
Busy day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might be
Oh,
nighttime.
a busy day, yeah,
Yeah.
might go into the
Might
night.
go into, yeah.
All right, John, you,
Town Board Resolution 619 of 2022 is a road review application for 284 Spring Road Path LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map as indicated on the resolution, situated at Sagaponack, is accepted.
Second. Yeah.
seconded by
Councilman Scott.
Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. All right, to the walk-ons. We're almost there, folks. You know, that last meeting we had spoiled us. It was over so quickly. This is, we've been here a while tonight. All right, 40360 appoints Dorota Godlewski as town controller. I think I'm supposed to say Dorota. She tells me to roll the R. As town controller. Just let me get a second so I could say something here.
Second.
Second by Councilman Schiavone. So I've been working very closely with a lot of people call her Dorothy or Dorota. She has been deputy controller, has done a phenomenal job. She's often the person I go to when I have questions about the budget, or, you know, what's available, what funds are available. I think she's going to do a great job. I think she's going to do a great job as controller. It's a tough job, you know, between the town, all the town funds, hundreds of millions of dollars of public funds are being managed. And Len Marchese has been great. We just got our third perfect audit in a row. Not a single deficiency of any kind, not any recommendations for improvement. But, you know, Dorothy's been part of that team. She's worked so closely with Len, and I'm so pleased that she's interested in stepping up to being controller. I have absolute confidence that she'll do a great job as controller. It'll be a seamless transition, and I am pleased to recommend her for controller. You know, the supervisor is the chief fiscal officer of the town. The controller is, you know, the person the supervisor works probably most closely with on fiscal matters. So it is really an important position to the town. And you all know Dorothy, and you've worked with Dorothy, and I know you'll support her. So we're fortunate to have her, and with that, if anybody else on the motion want to say anything?
Just to congratulate Dorota. I know she'll do a fantastic job. If it wasn't so late, I'd say more.
Yeah. I'm thrilled to have somebody who already knows all of our systems.
Yeah, she's going to do fantastic.
Not having to bring somebody in from the outside who's not unfamiliar. Anyone else?
No, she's just great. Good. I think
Should be
she's perfect
seamless,
for the
yeah.
job. Absolutely. Look forward to it.
All right. So we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 40382 is the 10th warrant, capital number 10, CPF number 10, and payroll liability.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. John, you're next.
Walk-on resolution 40509, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone, is a notice of public hearing to consider the adoption of the housing plan as an updated element of the town's comprehensive plan.
All right, so we have to amend this one too. We
Yeah.
probably should have done it before we
Yeah,
walked
just
it on,
realized that.
because we had, but since we walked it on in the form in the packet, we have to amend it to include that video conferencing language. So make a motion to amend to include that same language.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and now you want to make a motion to approve?
I do.
And same
Although I'm a
second?
little confused. because
Yeah, how
I
is
thought
that
this
different
was
from the
Coun-
other
I-
one?
Well, I thought this was Council Schiavone's resolution. It
Yeah,
was
I'm
on
actually a
the
little bit
reso.
confused as to how that's different than the other one we did.
This one is for the
This
comprehensive
is for the
plan,
comprehensive plans,
Right.
definitely.
whereas the other one is for a code amendment change, creating the 0.5% fund, or the
Yes,
fund
yeah.
to receive the potential 0.5%.
This
transfer.
adopts the plan.
Right.
Yes.
This adopts the plan, which
Well,
is
this
a
is to
necessary
evaluate, to get
element.
public input on a plan that we would adopt.
This is, no, okay, you're right.
Right.
This is a notice of a public hearing to get it, right, input on the plan that you've been working on. Why aren't you the lead sponsor?
He is.
He is.
I am,
Top.
and John read
All
it.
right.
I read it up front. 'cause
All
I
right,
had-
so
I saw
we're
it
gonna
back.
have
It's on the
the-
front, it's-
It's wrong.
So where are we now? Did we do the motion to amend yet?
We did.
Okay, so now we'll, Councilman Schiavone will make the motion then
And then I'll
to
second.
approve as amended, seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. Is that also on the same day in June? June
Yes.
1st?
Yeah.
the same week in June.
Order out.
Yeah.
We have to change the planning.
All right, so that was approved as amended. Two more. 40515 amends the 2022 Town Board Zoning Amendment Petition Fee Schedule for the Department of Land Management.
Second.
Oh, does this one also have?
I think.
No.
No.
I got amendment.
Just a resolution.
Yeah, no, this is okay.
Is it?
All right, so seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
I've
Aye.
got a mark to it,
Approved.
though.
No, I think that's just the
No, it's fine.
petition to change
Yep.
from one
Okay.
non-conforming use to another is gonna have a $1,000 fee.
The first
One
one
more.
we've had since it was adopted in 2021, so it wasn't set.
So does that mean the next one actually has a $1,000 fee? Is that to the zoning board? That's the zoning board.
The land management,
No,
Right, but if it goes to the town board, that's different.
I don't know.
it's submitted in my office,
Okay.
and then it goes to land management. The
Right, plus-
funding,
Okay, a zoning
Yes, it
amendment.
comes to
Okay,
us.
because they do the review, yes.
okay, so that was approved, and we do have the first one, and I will explain this. It's pretty basic, but 40516 is a notice of public hearing to consider change in a nonconforming use pursuant to Southampton Town Code, Section 330-185.1, and I do have to amend this to allow the video conferencing. So let me make a motion to amend it first. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now I'm going to make a motion to approve as amended. I will explain it, but I'll need a second first.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman McNamara. So, down on Route 39, if you're actually heading east, it's the very first commercial property you come to. Briscoe Protective is no longer there. The property's in contract to be purchased by Dan's Papers. And for some reason, this property is zoned residential, even though to me, ought to be a commercially zoned highway business property. It's not a viable location for a home. It's sort of, you have this property, then you have Bentley, and then you have that gas station at Hill Station Road. Those three properties, they're all in commercial use. So what happened was when Briscoe, the security company, went in there, they had to change it from one non-conforming. It was already a commercial use, and they wanted to have two offices, two different companies operating there. So they went to the zoning board, and they got agreement to change it from one non-conforming use to another. And they put some very specific language in it that said it had to be like a security office or a bookkeeping office or an insurance office. There was like 6 or 7 types of offices. And now you have a newspaper that wants to use it as a sales office. They want to do their editorial, their layouts, a very low, like not a traffic generating thing. And so they need to go, until it gets rezoned, they need to go from one non-conforming use to another. This case, it'll be basically from 2 office spaces just to 1. So it will be more conforming, but we're going to have to not say it has to be an insurance company. It's going to be media, or we'll have to expand it somehow, right, Kathleen? Is it? Okay. So and it's a public hearing, and so Kathleen, what does it say? Accounting, auditing, bookkeeping?
So it's, as the supervisor indicated, it's going from, the proposals to go from 2 uses with a variety of offices to 1 office use allowing bookkeeping, accounting, advertising, writing, editing, administrative staff, sales, and similar office job tasks categorized as other services in your business table of use regulations.
Right, and this is sort of a time is of the essence thing because the whole closing is held up, and it's a weird situation, but that's why I'm walking it on to allow this. So if the board feels like rather than the security company operating there, a media company can operate there, then we can move this thing forward. And I do think ultimately we ought to rezone this property because you can't have a house there, in my opinion. So, okay, so that's it, basically. So I'll make a motion to approve as amended, or I already did. We already had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Thank you for indulging me with that explanation. That's all she wrote. Anybody else have any other business?
Not
Good. Good, because I'm tired. All right, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.